So we're calling to order the zoning board of appeals regular meeting for Thursday, February 19th, 2026. It is 6:30. Present, we have
Sylvia Rakowski, counsel.
Richard Kurzmeyer.
Nick Fulton. Kim Constant.
Nancy Hutchinson,
Stephanie Mickle.
Michaela Pearson,
Kathleen Tracy.
Eric Knapp, land use coordinator.
and absent so far, I guess, is Russ Fogg and ZBA clerk Amy Hewitt. Okay, so we're going to go on to the public hearing, and just to remind people, the applicants, I think this is a continued case, so I don't know if I need to remind you of the criteria. Should I read it again?
It's the only case, but
Okay.
it's up to you.
To say who's seated tonight?
Oh, right. Well, since I still get to the case, okay. So I think, so this is case 25-13C, 125 Shore Road, requesting variances for the demolition of existing structures and construction of a new FEMA compliant dwelling, in-ground pool and detached garage within the Connecticut River and tidal water area on RU 40 lot in the AE 11 flood zone. Thunder Mountain LLC applicant. This case is continued from February 15th public hearing. The ZBA members and alternates that were present at the January 15th meeting will be continue to be seated for this case, and that is myself, Kip Cotson, Stephanie Mickle, Michaela Pearson, and Nick Fulton. Right? Everybody's okay with that? Okay. As noted at the February 15th public hearing, several variants are requested to sections 4.3.1, tidal water protection in the conservation zone. No building or other structure, including drainage structures, septic systems, and wells, shall extend within less than 100 feet of the mean high tide line as defined in the Connecticut General Statutes of the Connecticut River or any of its tributaries or associated wetlands. 4.10.3, conservation zone requirements, Connecticut River setbacks. No building or other structure shall be constructed, reconstructed, enlarged, extended, or moved, or structurally altered within 100 feet of the coastal jurisdiction line as defined in the Connecticut General Statutes of the Connecticut River or any of its tributaries or associated wetlands. And as far as I know, the only new information that's been submitted so far has been the Connecticut River Gateway Commission date letter. So since that's the only new information, Secretary, would you like to read that letter into the record?
Old Lyme Zoning Board of Appeals submitted the referenced variance application to the Connecticut River Gateway Commission for review and approval pursuant to section 25-102H of the Connecticut General Statutes. These comments are provided for consideration by Old Lyme ZBA at the public hearing commencing on January 15th, 2026 and continued until February 19th, 2026. The application proposes the following: demolition of an existing house and new construction of a FEMA compliant dwelling of 3,197 square feet, in-ground pool, detached garage, raised patio, and a new well. Much of the property sits within the 100-foot structural setback. Finding: CRGC, the Gateway Commission, reviewed the application at its January 22nd, 2026 regular meeting. CRGC finds the proposed development violates the CRGC standards and is therefore adverse to the protection and development of the Gateway Conservation Zone in accordance with the proposes of the CGS section 25-102H and the standards set forth pursuant to CGS section 25-102D. The proposed development violates section 4.10.3 parentheses the 100-foot structural setback of the Old Lyme zoning regulations. The site plans demonstrate a massive increase in encroachment into the 100-foot structural setback, leading to a massive increase in nonconformity. The existing structural coverage encroachment into the 100-foot setback includes 124 square feet for the existing shed and 201 square feet for a recently removed gazebo totaling 325 square feet. The existing 1,672 square foot house is not in setback. The proposed encroachment into the 100-foot setback is 2,145 square feet for the new house and 1,065 square feet for the new pool, totaling 3,210 square feet. CRGC consistently concludes that no variance requests should be approved for new structures encroaching on the 100-foot structural setback, and under no circumstances should a new pool be considered in the 100-foot structural setback. CRGC requests ZBA carefully consider and not approve this 3,210 square foot increase in structural coverage in the 100-foot structural setback. CRGC also finds the design with substantial amounts of glass resulting in significant illumination from the interior may cause light pollution and pose a danger to birds in an ecologically sensitive area. Thank you for the Zoning Board of Appeals' continued assistance and partnership in the protection and preservation of the natural and traditional riverway scene within the lower Connecticut River Valley. For the Commission, Suzanne Thompson, Chair, CRGC.
Okay, thank you for that. So at this point in time, I think we're gonna hand it over to the applicants and say if you have any responses or anything else new to present since the last meeting.
Of course, thank you. For the record, my name is Joe Wren, the professional engineer of Indigo in Old Saybrook, with us, and I'm going to block them with the board, so I'll put it over here. We have the contract purchasers, Mr. Oster, Mr. Boehner. We also have the project architect with us and the project landscape architect.
What's the project architect's name again? And it wasn't listed on plans.
Chris Harold.
Harold,
Harold,
could you spell that?
ARELT.
ARD.
ELT.
Say that again.
ARELT.
Okay,
Nautilus Architects, One Holes Road.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the gateway letter isn't a surprise. We even discussed it at our last meeting. We knew what it was going to say. We're proposing structure within the 100-foot area, and that's why we're in front of you. It's the only reason why we're in front of you. All of the other zoning dimensional setbacks, coverage, gross floor area, all that we meet. They've even worked hard to keep the house below 4,000 square feet, so it didn't need a special exception. So it met that aspect of gateway to have a large expansive house within visibility of the Connecticut River or its connected waterways. So a lot of things were implemented into the original plan, knowing the opposition that we would get from Gateway, including this extensive buffer that you usually don't see offered up front. It's usually a reaction. And that was offered up front to, right now there's lawn, this area that's not house is lawn, and it goes right down to the tidal wetland. So where does all the fertilizer go? It's right in the wetland. So we had extensive discussion with Gateway, talking about the environmental considerations of the river and the wetlands as well.
When was this discussion? At their meeting?
At their meeting.
Okay,
January 2nd.
okay. I didn't know you were there. Okay.
Yeah, so we have to go to that, explain to them, talk with them. That letter is a result of our meeting. And like I said, last meeting, we fully knew what they were going to say because they just prohibit anything from the 100-foot area. And that's, again, why we have variances here. So over the past few weeks, everyone's worked hard to make some adjustments. And what I want to do is show you what these adjustments are. Fresh off the press.
New exhibits.
These are new updated plans. Okay. And I'll explain all of the changes are improvements. So I printed 4 sets, so you could have one for the record and then you could share the other thing.
This is one copy here.
Yep, it's one set. So there are a couple pages of the site plan have been updated. The architectural plans have been updated.
So how many exhibits are these? Do I need to write that?
Yeah, we have to write
that.
so there's
Are
like,
they letters? A, B, C, D, right?
wait, we had one exhibit last time, so the exhibit
Theory,
two,
there's
3, 4, 5.
Right.
That's 4 exhibits, and these are gonna be exhibits 1 through 2 through 5.
Are they numbers or? Then
Because we've been doing the ones that they submit during the meeting as numbers, the ones that were just submitted the case file as,
all right. And would they have to be someone? I'm not the regular secretary, so.
yeah, I can write, but,
Okay.
yeah, okay. So I'll just say 1, did you have, did you have a specific order you want these exhibits in?
It doesn't really matter. Nope, there's a landscape plan, there are architecture plan and
Okay,
site.
okay. Okay, so
Let's take a wingspan.
There's, none of these things are new. They're just updated of things that we updates and that we provided in the previous.
okay, so I'm gonna say the new coastal site plan is exhibit 2. Through 19. The
While you're on that, Joe, is that dated through today?
The revision date
revision date says,
up here. So you got to flip that over. So it's through 2/19/26.
Thank you.
yeah, but each one has its own one. I just did one. Oh, you gave me more than one.
Nope, these are two separate plans.
That's what
So
I thought.
this is sheet 3 of 3 and that one is
Sheet 1 of 3.
one of 3 and 3 of 3. 2 of 3 did not change, so we need to be able to.
Okay, so this, so this proposed site plan, page 3. is exhibit 3 to 19. Then I guess the new architectural plan, is that what this is?
Yes.
It's exhibit 4 of 219. And then
What was that? The last one was the landscape
the
plan.
landscape plan is
Or
exhibit
their
4.
drawings and
And then the new architectural plans. I think it's a multi-sheet thing, it's like,
Yeah, those are stapled together, so that could be one exhibit.
I'm just saying how pages 3. Looks like it's 3 pages.
Oh, yeah.
Exhibit,
Paper Muslims.
exhibit 5 to 19. Okay. So these are the ones that are marked that can probably go in that folder.
Okay.
Under the folder, so we don't get them all mixed up.
makes sense.
Okay,
So I wanted to,
we what?
Can you look at that okay, or do we need to bring one closer to you? You're not looking at one?
I'll see when we.
Okay.
Kip has one as well.
Mhm.
Oh, there, yeah, maybe just put one in the middle.
You're welcome to.
Okay. Yeah,
So I wanted to start off the meeting a little more casual tonight than usual, and the day started off with us having to put our family dog down. So most of the day was consumed by that, and then the last few hours we had to come get ready for you this evening. So I had to switch gears mentally and get here, and so thank you. I know this is the only thing on the agenda, so thank you for having us and considering this. Everyone on the team's worked really hard over the past few weeks. We really wanted to get this into a few days in advance. But it was right down to the wire, making as many improvements as we could. And that's what you have in front of you. And I'll just go through it so it's very clear. Couple things for the record. Last time there was some discussion of the newer updated ledge light approval. I don't know if that ended up making it into the record, but here's a copy if you need it. There was one included with the application that was for this property, but for an older application. And this is the updated one for this particular plan,
For this plan,
for this one.
this is exhibit.
If you
6.
don't have it, sometimes it's already automatically into your file, but
No, we haven't seen this before.
okay.
No.
It was from January, so obviously.
Exhibit 6. Well, you said this plan is from February.
Yeah, but the septic hasn't changed. It's the
Okay,
same septic system.
So I think we may actually have.
Yeah, I think we have two.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter.
whatever we've marked it as an
Two's
exhibit.
better than
Okay.
0.
Put it up.
Yeah. Keep it with the new exhibits.
That's the under stuff. That's the new stuff.
But then the other thing that I have for you, which will be our next exhibit, but I'm just going to talk through it first, is the application. And what I did is I just put the new numbers in red on the side. All the numbers, all the distances from the coastal jurisdiction line, all have increased, and I'll just list those out for you, and then I'll give this to you as an exhibit.
It's, you don't have any more copies of that, do you?
No, I'm going to give you this one.
Okay, I guess we're just gonna listen to the numbers. Okay.
Yeah, and they're on the site plan. They're in the zoning table on the site.
Okay.
The numbers, and they're in bold because that's what we're requesting variances. This just shows what they were before and what
Site plan.
we're proposing now.
Right.
Okay, so the proposing now, the red numbers on here are consistent with the
They're on
old
this.
numbers on the paper.
Okay.
Okay. So 4.3.1 and 4.10.3, those are both measured from the CJL, so the distances are the same. So I'm just going to read one list, and it's the same for both. So previously, the closest point that the proposed house was 61.6 feet. So again, everything is removed from the 50-foot area. Nothing is closer. Nothing is in that 50-foot setback. And the very closest thing now is 60 feet. And many things are further than 60 feet, but we're not even rubbing up against the 50-foot line. Okay, so
You weren't last time either.
so the house, we were within 5 feet last time. Last time the house was 61.6 feet, and now we're 66.9 feet. So that's a little bit more than 5 feet.
I think the one thing to keep in mind though, and I think it's pointed out, is like encroachment of the setback is not just measured linearly.
Mhm.
It's also increase in volume of the setback. So I just want to make sure
And
that.
we have a little table on that next sheet, sheet 3 of 3, that on the right-hand side there, that shows the actual area of the encroachment that we'll get there momentarily. I have a highlighted plan for you that's easier to follow. So for now, we'll just go through these distances. So before the house was 61.6, now it's 66.9. The closest distance to the pool edge before was 58.9, and now that is 60.2. The AC pad was in the 100-foot setback. That's been removed from the 100-foot setback now and moved to the south side of the house and out of the 100-foot setback. The raised patio has been significantly reduced, and that was 58.9 before. Now it's 70.4. The well also, we were able to move that away further. That was 67.1 feet before, and now it's 78.4 feet. We also show on the existing condition that there is a paved driveway. I'm going to go to sheet 3 of 3 now because it's a larger scale and we have color on it, so it's easier to see. So this pink area is presently out there. This is all pavement, and you could see part of it is within the 50-foot buffer, which goes up to this blue line. The 100-foot goes up to this blue line. And all of that pink is partially within the 50, and then almost all of it is within the 100 feet. Now, we talked about the paved driveway to Gateway, and they said, well, that doesn't really count to us because you can't see it from the river. So then I asked the question, well, then why does an in-ground pool count? And they didn't really have a direct answer for that. And I thought that was kind of curious as to why, they're very strict about a pool that's flat to the ground and you can't see it from the river,
Don't you need
but the
fencing
driveway
around?
wouldn't count.
Don't you need fencing around a pool though? I believe there's a law now that says that you need to have a fence around the pool.
That is incorrect. As of July 1st, they proposed that law, but it did not pass.
Okay.
You can have an automatic cover or you could have other things, but you do not need to have a fence as of now. We actually had that same discussion for a project in Essex with Gateway. Someone brought that up and it was the Essex zoning officer reviewed it with the Essex building official and it was clarified.
Okay.
So there was a bill that proposed to bring fencing back, but it did not pass as of July 1st.
I think it's a difference between a driveway. A driveway is like something you need to enter and access the property, but a pool is something that's optional.
Well, a 3,000 square foot paved driveway fully within the 100-foot area
Yeah.
doesn't have to be within the 100-foot area.
I understand, but it's
So
existing.
we have proposed a pervious driveway, getting out of the 100-foot area as soon as possible, decreasing all of that impervious area. So it just completely takes the driveway away, the paved driveway away and brings it out here. And then this part of the driveway is outside of the 100 feet. It's just this piece connecting back to the road, but it's all pervious now. So there's no more impervious driveway in the 50, which is very close to the wetland, or within the 100 feet. It's all pervious. Now, the other thing is the septic system. So presently, this little pink rectangle here is the septic tank. The leaching fields go downhill of that tank and they're down in this area. So they're all within the 50 to 100-foot zone. That will be completely removed from the 100-foot area, and the new approved septic system is completely outside of the 100-foot area over here. And not to jump around, but these two things, the septic system and the driveway, were specifically mentioned in the letter that we received from the DEP. The DEP actually said typically they wouldn't support a project like this, but with everything being proposed here and the careful attention to detail, the drainage dry well, the use of pervious materials, the removal of impervious materials, the addition of this huge landscape buffer that John Cunningham will talk about momentarily. They actually said that they support this project. So our state agency that this gets referred to supports this project from an environmental standpoint. The current house, another improvement here, the current house here.
I think one thing they also said specifically about that is that they thought that it's because currently the closest thing, a structure was that shed. And so the house is further away from the shed.
At the shed, and there's a pavilion here.
Well,
Right,
one,
but the
smaller.
volumes of those is much, much, much smaller than the house.
It is, the volume is.
So that was
The-
their comments.
The coastal water, if you read through those, I mean, those are linear dimensions from the coastal jurisdiction line. There's really no discussion in there. I understand volume from a ZBA standpoint, but 4.3 and then 4.10.3 don't really mention volume in the 100-foot area. They just mention distance to the coastal jurisdiction line. That's the variance that.
I find that not very helpful discussion.
Okay.
It's to say that I could have like a penny in the setback versus something that's an elephant 3 feet further away.
Right.
That's not really logical in my mind.
Understand, but maybe the reg needs to be updated. We could ask Sylvia for clarification, but it's a linear distance from the coastal jurisdiction.
So let's ask Sylvia. So Sylvia, is it appropriate to consider the volume and the setback, not just the linear distance?
Yes, is the answer.
Thank you.
I think you have to consider everything in the context of what it is. So yes, the regulation specifically only has a dimension that is a linear dimension. But in the context of what the regulation means and what you're looking at, you are looking at the whole thing.
I mean, for the same reason that going higher in the setbacks considered to be an increase in the nonconformity and requires a variance, bulk in the setback is something that the ZBA should be considering.
Okay,
But if you had a vertical expansion on existing footprint in the 100-foot area, I would argue that you don't need a setback for that.
I disagree.
Well, we're not talking about that today.
But anyway, that would be the zoning enforcement officer's call anyway.
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
And you would clarify with your legal counsel.
yes.
Joe, could I get you to clarify your narrative?
Yep.
We've got two, I might want to characterize it, conflicting feedbacks from this. The DEE piece is
Yep.
overall good for the property from an environmental point of view.
Right.
The perspective of Gateway I always read it as mostly a visual aspect to what's going on. Am I mischaracterizing that, or does that sound about right? Is that what you would propose? And do you have any other reads on that? How should I look at that?
That's the way I took the same way. It was what it looked like from the river and
What
what
it
they
looked like
wanted
from the
to
river.
see.
Right.
from the river
They,
or not
they,
see.
they stress the visual, you're absolutely correct, from all the waters and all the marshes that are connected to the Connecticut River. But then when I ask about a paved driveway, they say, well, we can't see that. But then I bring up the point about the flat in-ground pool, and they don't really have an answer for that. Yes, a pool is more of a structure. I get that, but the paved driveway is not great for the marsh, just like the fertilized lawn. So from an environmental perspective, I agree with DEP. Gateway has to, and it says right in their letter that they strictly prohibit any new structures within the 100-foot zone. So they have to say no. They can't say, well, you know, you put this nice buffer in and you're eliminating that driveway, we'll be okay this time. They're just across the board, every project, no matter if I do it or anybody else does it, it's just a hard one.
But I think at the last meeting, we had asked Eric his thought on the purpose of the 4.10.3. And it was not just visual, it was also protecting the actual environmental aspects of it as well.
And the
Go ahead.
Gateway letter makes that clear. I mean,
Yeah.
the Gateway letter does speak to that as well.
And also when it gets back to the DEP, when we read this last time, it says, well, we generally cannot support significant variances from coastal resource setbacks. In this case, the variances will increase the distance from the river over that which currently exists and will provide more than 60 foot of distance between the site disturbance and the river. But again, that's thinking only linearly, and that's including this shed, which isn't even listed on the assessor's report.
Mhm.
So I'm saying, especially if you don't consider that shed, there's no way that this is not more encroaching on the setback than, and it's closer to the VE flood zone. It's lower in elevation, and it's in a new nonconformity that didn't exist before.
We understand, and that's why we're asking for 2 variances for this. And I still have yet to be able to go through these improved areas that we showed, other than the linear distances. So,
Joe, before you do that, can I just to answer your
Yeah,
question?
please.
So Joe is right. From the Gateway historically has interpreted, and for a long time, up until recently, Gateway was essentially looking for the visual aspects from the river. So if you're on a boat in the river, the visual aspects and the aesthetic and so on and so forth. The statute is a little bit more broad, and as of late, has been interpreted much more broadly than Gateway ever did historically. There's literally a live case right now that's going through the court system. We'll see how that finalizes, sort of multi-layers of appeals and so forth. So that's kind of an open issue as to whether Gateway, and I will agree with Joe, Gateway systematically does deny anything that's essentially in this area outright, whether it's a pergola, whether it's relatively more modest thing or something bigger like this. So they do, and I can confirm this, not just Joe's representation, that is, they just outright deny those. That doesn't mean you shouldn't weigh whether it's a gazebo or it's a pergola or if it's something like this, so you should. But I can confirm that is what their position is, that anything in that setback is just outright denied. And that is inconsistent from what they were doing historically and currently being tested in the court system. The other thing I want to point out for you is, unlike wetlands, where you need an approval and it's sort of mandatory on you as to what they can do, the Gateway is a referral process. They're there to give you their opinions. You're not bound by what they say. You can use your own level of judgment as to anything from, well, that's what they're there for, so I should listen to them, to, I appreciate their position and their point, but I think differently. So you're not bound by any of their recommendations. They're merely just recommendations. The law just requires that it be referred to them for comment for whatever use that has to you, but you could disagree with them either in whole or in part.
Similar for the Connecticut DEP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
we had an open pavilion, relatively small open pavilion with no utilities for the old Saybrook Senior Housing. That was going to be on a lawn area within the 100 feet to the marsh, and Gateway said no. So strict across the board, no matter what's in there, they're going to say going to say no. The case that Sylvia mentioned is one of my cases. It's a corner of a in-ground pool with landscaping around the pool and landscaping along the river as well, so you can't see it at all. Even if there was no landscaping, you really wouldn't be able to see it. And Gateway came to the ZBA meeting, they spoke out against it. ZBA ended up approving it, so Gateway sued Old Saybrook ZBA. The judge initially upheld the decision by Old Saybrook ZBA, and then they asked for reconsideration. So that's why it's back in the court system right now. That's the update. But I'm not sure that the judge is going to change his original decision, just up for reconsideration. And that was an in-ground pool within the 100-foot setback along the Connecticut River. Mainline Connecticut River, not off some marsh that's the river's a mile away from here in a straight line. So a little different, but it all counts just the same, nonetheless. So, and we understand volume and we understand the visual character. We understand the glass and the lighting. We'll go over that as well. They were very careful, and they'll tell you the very first discussions that we had is that there's this group called Gateway, and we have to go through them, and this is what they like and this is what they don't like. So the discussions, and Chris can go through the plans with you later, but a lot of the house in the 100-foot area, besides one portion of it, is 1-story and it's low profile. This portion is 2-story, the garage is 2-story, but the garage is fully outside the 100-foot area. So initially, yes, the house is spread out, kept it below the 4,000 square feet to meet that part of Gateway, kept the roof lines low to meet that part of Gateway. And the coloring of the house is a muted natural color that blends in with the background. And it's not stark white or yellow or pink and just stands out like Lollipop. It's kind of like a natural wood tone type color, and it blends into the landscaping. The glass, we already had these discussions. There is glass on that side of the house. Any of us build a house with a view of the river, we're going to put glass to see through. We're not going to build a wood wall, right? Like they used to do in the 1950s. So there is glass here. They're fully committed. They're environmentalists. They support environmental organizations. They're fully committed to putting the proper non-reflective glass to protect the birds from seeing themselves and seeing the sky behind them and flying through the glass. The lighting on that side of the house will be minimum. I think I mentioned this last time and mentioned it to Gateway. Minimum necessary for safety and security. All of that lighting will be down, dark sky compliant, down shining, light, nothing out or nothing up at all. They don't want to do that either. They don't want to disturb neighbors, passersby. They don't, especially the wild. The other very important nature of this is, yes, as you mentioned, the full house right now is outside of the flood zone and it's outside of the 100-foot review area. But it does violate the south side yard setback, and it does violate by quite a bit the front yard street side setback. So with this plan.
So the side that's in the setback right now, it's 24.2 feet instead of 35 feet.
The side that's in the setback, let's see.
Because they can't really count the deck because the current deck is not a legal pre-existing nonconformity.
Okay, so 24 versus 35, so we're almost 50% in setback.
10 feet.
11 feet of 12 would be half, 24.
It's 35. It's a third.
Of 35, so yeah, it's even.
It's 10
even bigger.
feet closer.
Mhm.
But
it's
it's not-
conforming. It doesn't matter how, even if it was 2 inches, it's conforming versus non-conforming. So the amount, I would argue that it's a lot, you know, if it's 10 or 11 feet further away, but it's conforming. Now we've eliminated that non-conforming. We didn't make it better. We've eliminated. Same with the
But I
street.
think we have to take into consideration, you're saying, one of the things your hardship is that you're saying the overall nonconformity is net less than,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
That's our call.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
That's my
I'm gonna
opinion.
Yeah.
say something here then, since you talked so much about the driveway. Yes, it will be pervious, but now at least the last month's plans, you still had like over 1,000 more square feet of impervious surface despite the driveway. So I
But
don't
what-
see that as a
But what no one,
positive at all.
but what no one is considering is, I'm not sure about the fertilizer, but now, and John will talk about this more, there's several hundred feet, I think it's about 500 feet of berm here. It's landscape berm with appropriate plantings. Right now, it's just flat grass and it goes right into the tidal marsh. So any of that runoff, if you're worried about additional coverage, any of that runoff is now treated. It goes down over the lawn, gets into over this buffer, and then is treated through that buffer before it gets into the well. This is something, if you read any DEP manual, they like buffers along the edge of the marsh to prevent further encroachment and also for wildlife, and then also to treat stormwater runoff. And that's part of the reason why the environmental police is not Gateway. The environmental police is DEP, and DEP favors this.
The challenge with those is because I know in the past we've approved variances and we've been told there's going to be a nice buffer along there.
Mhm.
I drive by now and that buffer is like meaningless. So
This buffer is,
they might be when you first planted, but then is it really gonna stay that way?
they've hired a landscape architect who understands coastal environments. They've come up with this plan. This plan, and you didn't allow me to get there yet, but this plan now includes more trees and more shrubs than it even did before. So this is a very substantial buffer. It's very wide. It's not like a 5-foot wide buffer with a few decorative grasses in it. John momentarily, that's why he's here, John Cunningham momentarily will go through that with you and show you the quantity and the types of all the plants in there. That's this more than balances the additional coverage within that 50 to 100 foot area. Right now, these areas that have these coverages, right now that is open, yes. First of all, there's a septic system in this area that's going away. So you have to give credit to that because that groundwater is going right toward the tidal marsh. Now we're more than 100 feet away. The other thing is, yes, we do have some more impervious area in there, but it goes over the lawn and then is treated by that buffer before it gets into the marsh. So there's no argument to say that this is worse environmentally, because if that buffer wasn't there, then I would agree with you. With the buffer there, then I think that more than balances. There's more buffer here than coverage in that setback. So if you want to look at it in that light, this is thousands of square feet. It's 500 feet long. It's 20 feet wide in some areas. So, you know, it could be, I don't know the exact area. I could get that for you, but if just looking at the green and looking at these spaces here, it's a lot bigger. Even if it were equal, it balances out that area. Lawn, and I've had this conversation with Gateway, fertilized lawn is worse than a roof. A roof is open, you're not putting fertilizer on it. It's generally clean runoff other than bird droppings or whatever natural things hit. And those things would hit the lawn also, is cleaner water than a big, huge expansive lawn where you're picking up all the chemical fertilizers and pesticides and getting it into the marsh. That's
They're
why.
environmentalists. Are they using that stuff?
Well, they'll probably use natural and organic fertilizers, but the people that are there now and that have been there with the older house, who knows? Most likely not. Most likely they do it themselves or have a landscape company come in that use the chemical fertilizers. But no matter if they own the property, someone else owns the property with this house here, even if they do use chemical fertilizers, you have this buffer. And John, the buffer will be mounded up right above the grass a little bit.
You have to come up.
You have to come up and introduce yourself if you want to speak.
Okay. Well, obviously we come up and present later on.
But even
John Cunningham,
speaking,
I'm the landscape architect on TEC Landscape Design located in Madison, Connecticut. It might be in some areas, Joe, to answer your question. I don't think it needs to be on a berm. Everyone knows what a berm is.
Yeah.
If this was existing grade, the grade might change a little bit. It's not going to come to here,
Right.
But there might be little areas where the elevation changes. I'll go through the planting of the buffer when Joe's done with his presentation.
Yeah, but even if it's 3 inches or 4 inches or 5 inches, it prevents the water from having a direct connection to the tidal marsh. So if something as wide as this table and the thinnest area is on this plan and it's up this much, the water is not going through it. It's sitting there. And then eventually it goes over the top of it, goes through the vegetation, which is a filter, and then it gets into the tidal marsh. Whereas right now it has a direct connection.
To what water, wastewater would the dry well collect? From what part of the home? Roof water coming down? What are you using that for?
So the dry well here serves two purposes. One is the extra impervious area added on the site that takes that extra impervious area from the roof and puts it into the ground. And it's outside of the 100-foot, well outside, almost outside of 150 feet, puts that into the ground. So
We're talking runoff, it will collect runoff from the impervious.
that's a very valid point, because the added impervious area in here, the additional impervious, is being directed to the ground. It's a very valid point.
So that was 1.3 inches of rain.
1.3
Is that
inches
rainfall?
is per the new DEP manual. 1.3 inches of runoff off the additional impervious area over what's there today. Yes. And that's included in the stormwater calculations over here. We usually end up doing more than 1.3. If you look at that, it's 2.2 inches. Based on the dry well that's provided and the stone around the dry well, the extra impervious put in there is an equivalent of 2.2 inches, where 1.3 minimum is required. So that's a very valid point. And again, that's something else that DEP looked at, because if we sent a plan like this to DEP, they recommend groundwater infiltration, they recommend tidal wetland buffers, they recommend reducing impervious areas, introducing permeable materials for driveways. Obviously, a roof can't be permeable. None of us want to live in that house. Right? So, you know, in that regard, I think we've done everything that we could with the septic, with the dry well, with the elimination of the paved driveway, with the implementation of the berm, to do everything to make this environmentally a better project. Somehow indirectly related to that, the other item, and DEP mentioned this too, is this house is tucked up into this corner, and it was built 100 years ago or 90 years ago, whenever it was. Again, as we mentioned, is like halfway into the side, the front yard setback, and a third of the way or so into the side yard setback. Those nonconformities are eliminated. However, the house is not FEMA compliant now. I believe it even has some basement areas. The floor level is too low. That will be removed, and these new structures will be 100% FEMA compliant. They have to be.
Wait,
in
you
order to
said
get
that,
those.
I thought we talked about it last time, is that it's not that it needs to be elevated, it's just that it's not FEMA compliant, you know, from other purposes, because the first floor elevation is 12.5 feet.
Basement.
It's
Yeah,
because you have a
so-
basement and.
So the basement, but also,
and
I don't remember what the flood zone is.
mechanicals.
Is the flood zone 11 or 12? I don't know.
It's 11 and you have the building, it's a 4 foot above that.
Yeah, so the floor level is above that, but then you also have the floor joists that are into that +1 feet as well.
But it's A zone, so that's okay.
Yeah, it's an A zone.
So-
It's not okay if the flood zone is into a floor joist and the floor joist is not flood resistant.
I understand.
Okay.
I'm just talking about heights.
Yep.
Okay.
We don't have floor joists on the base level, we have slab upgrade.
Excuse me?
Slab.
They're talking about the existing, they're talking about the
Oh, the
existing.
existing house.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess, because that's everything we have to compare to is like, what is the hardship? What is the minimum variance required to overcome the hardship? And is it in alignment with intent and purposes of zoning regulations? And right now, you have a house that's outside this area.
Non-conforming to 2 setbacks and
Right, legal pre-existing non-conforming, but it's elevation 12 feet. You go down, you start, the more you go towards the wetlands, this is elevation like 7 feet. So it's like, you're gonna have to bring it up significantly to make it FEMA compliant. I didn't really see that on the plans, but anyway. But the question is is it the minimum required to allow reasonable use of the property? Right now, you have a 2-bedroom house that is a reasonable use of the property. I know you want to have a 4-bedroom house and you want to have a pool, but are those required to overcome the hardship? So basically, if you took the existing house you have now and made it FEMA compliant, you wouldn't need any variances.
If we would have to fill in the basement and then potentially raise it to get it fully FEMA compliant.
But it doesn't need to be raised. That's the whole point. You might need to make some space for mechanicals.
That's up to the building official, because the 12 would be into the floor joists, which are not flood resistant materials. So
No, but if I'm
I
saying,
don't think they're interested in
but
redoing
I'm
that
just
house.
saying, but we're comparing to, you have a house
I understand
that,
what your charge is,
So
and we're
we're-
asking for variances to do this.
right?
And we heard you last time. But first of all, the way that this started, the house, when Tracy and Michael first came to us, this house wanted to be even closer to the marsh. It was into the 50-foot setback.
Yeah,
And
that,
you remember those discussions.
and we talked about you definitely meet the 50-foot setback requirement.
Right.
No
So
argument
we
there
pushed-
whatsoever.
We pushed the house back for our initial submittal. And then over the past few weeks after Gateway, we've come back with this plan, and this is my next piece, but I wanted to discuss these highlighted areas for you. So
Okay,
there was some discussion of area and volume in the setback. Now, these pink areas, they show as like kind of magenta lines on your sheet 3 of 3 there. But I highlighted them on here so there's a little bit easier to see. So what happened here is portions of the house were reduced and or everything slid toward the road away from the 100-foot area. So you can see where it was before, and then the pink hatching is where it was before, and then the dark is where it is now. So we've reduced that. The stair there, we had to add a stair in this location. Obviously, we need a stair to get down the grade from the elevated structure. We've eliminated that piece. This slid that way, so we got rid of that. So we're getting further away and we're reducing the area and the volume in those areas. This area here changed as well. The AC unit came around and is notched out into the side in the south yard outside of the 100-foot area. So the AC is no longer in need of a variance from the distance of the wells. The well shifted further away. This area here on the north side of the house was all a raised patio with a wall previously. That's completely gone and eliminated. And then on this side over here, there were some stairs and a retaining wall that is removed. The pool changed a little bit in shape and size, but then it was modified to have this kind of corner in it so that the area was essentially balanced as before. So all of these areas over on the right-hand side there, it shows you what is being added. Like areas like this, right in here, we have to add, right? Because the front wall of the house was here before. And then shifting it closer to the street, obviously we grab a little bit more within that 100-foot zone there. So that's just ancillary with shifting the house. But if you look at that little table on top there, we've added 178 square feet of coverage because of those ancillary things. But we've actually removed 670 square feet. So as a net, we've removed approximately 500 square feet from the 50 to the 100-foot area. And we feel that that is a substantial change as well.
you're just talking about the little box back down here, okay? You're talking this box down here.
The one above it shows you the previous, shows you the added coverage, which are the orange highlighted areas on here, these small areas here. And then the pink highlighted on this plan, shown in like magenta or purple lines on your plan, quantify as 670 feet or so. So the difference of those is approximately 500 square feet. So that's less than what the previous approval was. So we went to Gateway, we heard ZBA last time. You'll see the revisions based on comments from ZBA and Gateway. So went back to the drawing board with the architect and the owners, and we came up with all these creative ways to move it back, but keep it conforming to the front yard setback. so that we could keep it to all the dimensional zoning requirements, coverage, GFA, front yard setback, side yard setback. It meets all of those. It's just the coastal setbacks that we're asking the 2 variances for. So I felt that those were very valid improvements and salvaging an additional 500 square feet in there. That and combined with this big landscape buffer that John will talk about, and the design of the house being low profile, natural colors. I see you still have the rendering from before over there. Blends into the landscape. So all of those things together, we think that we created a nice fine balance from DP requirements, town zoning requirements, town plan of development, with, of course, the owner's considerations, and then Gateway. Even though Gateway said no, we feel that all of these things get close to and approach things that Gateway tries to see in a plan, as far as the house size, the lowering of the roof. We talked about the lighting and the glass, the reduction of impervious areas. We think all of those add to it. And we feel that this is it's just a nice balance, and it's an improvable project. So with that, I think that's everything I have. I mean, last time we talked about the variances required and the hardship. That's all written here, and the improvements in conformity, which I think I'll summarize in the end. But with that, I'll just have John come up, go through that landscape buffer. And then maybe Chris can show you the house very quickly. And you could ask any questions related to that, and then we'll summarize and open for questions.
He's got
You
one
could
up.
have it up there for you.
Oh, okay.
So pre-made.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, once again, John Cunningham, owner of TEC Landscape Designs. I brought some booklets. Do we have some plant people on the board that like to look at plant material?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
We have to name that as
That's
an
an exhibit
exhibit.
as well. Yep.
they're all the same. These are,
Exhibit
this,
7,
4, 5, 6.
7, I
There
think.
were.
There was 4 and then one more.
5, 6, I think 7.
Yeah, maybe it's exhibit 7.
I brought some reduced copies, but can everyone see this okay?
Mhm.
Okay, fine. In the plant booklet, it shows all the woody ornamentals, the trees, and I just grabbed some 4 or 5 of the herbaceous perennials. We all know the difference between all the different items, okay? As Joe said, I won't go through the whole property. I've really just started on the buffer planning, which if you follow my fingers, it's gonna run along here, back down to this side. It's gonna be anywhere from probably 10 to 15 feet wide. Right now, the buffer, to answer your question, it's full of a lot of invasives.
Yeah.
We're suggesting to remove the invasives. We'd like to remove the root mass of the invasives also. I've done a lot of wetland work. I've been in business for 40 years. I've presented a lot of plans to Gateway. We just finished the General's residence in Madison. They have a very large buffer also along the tidal marsh there. It's the same type of buffer planning that went back in. Okay, so if we went through the buffer area to begin with and remove the invasive, you're going to have disturbed soil. Okay, we'd like to also remove the root mass, as I said. The elevation of the planting area, I think, doesn't have to be uniform. There might be some areas that might have 5, 6 inches. There might be some areas that only have a couple inches, but it's going to be fresh soil that the new material is going to be planted in. And if you look at this plant list, it's a fairly extensive planting list. It's both trees. I think the Gateway Commission, I presented to them quite a bit. The trees are going to help soften the residents from the marsh, okay? The woody ornamentals, the shrubs, they are going to help also. And on a plan like this, the larger the circles, probably the larger the plant's going to be maybe at maturity. These are existing trees on the property that are all staying. These are existing trees that are all staying. All the rest of the circles in here are new varieties of plant material that are going to be planted, okay?
Before we were shown one tree.
I'm sorry, excuse
Before
me.
we were
Keep going,
shown
keep going.
one tree.
Go, go, go,
So
go.
you're gonna, how many of those circles are trees?
Well, there's notes on all the plan.
Yeah.
So the circles here, I suggested to be black gum. That's a terrific native tree. Okay. The circles with the little piece on them is a variety of dwarf Thunbergi pine or black pine. Okay, so each of the varieties on here are labeled up here on the plant list. Okay, so you can look at their quantities on here. There's both botanical and common names. So you'll see, and your zoning enforcement officer will, I'm sure, be over there to see what's going on.
Mhm.
So there are both trees, shrub material, and herbaceous perennial. Okay. All this buffer would be field determined probably by my office and the clients. Okay. And by that, I mean that this tree might not be exactly there. It might be shifted over a hair when we get to the site. And that's how we usually do most of the work in my office. But this is an extensive buffer that's only going to help the property. I really haven't done anything inside the property around the house besides suggesting to add some shade trees out front, okay, to soften the house from the road. I'm using swamp white oak. A lot of people know that it's bicolor out in front, and then black gum along the edge. Both are native. Both are. This is a salt tolerant site. We all know if a storm came in and it had a lot of salt in the air, all this material has to be able to withstand that whole. And that's what we design. Okay. As Joe was pointing out, this buffer right now is maintained lawn almost to the wetland edge. So we're leaving that, obviously the wetland buffer or the wetland edge stays as is. We're bringing the buffer into the property to form a buffer that's going to take any water that's going to start to move. To answer your question, you said the buffer didn't look like much in one of your comments earlier on in the meeting, okay? Remember,
At another site.
oh, at another site, I'm sorry. I thought it was this site. I thought you were looking
No,
at the
no,
buffer
it's
of the
saying-
site. Okay.
Sometimes we get explained that we're gonna have a buffer put in place and then we go back and look later and it's like, that wasn't much of a buffer. It wasn't.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's a very
it
good
didn't
question.
Seem to last very long either.
That's a very good question. And I think the zoning enforcement officer will probably back me up. All these plans have to have quantities and they have to have varieties on it, both botanical. And so if you look at this list and add up the amount of material we're putting in this property, it's quite a bit of material. And that material will act as a buffer along the marsh, okay? And it's not really the piece of material on how it's going to grow. It's really more of the root mass and the size of the area. It doesn't have to be 30, 40 feet. Most of the buffers we're doing are probably anywhere from 10 to maybe 20. That's plenty of root mass of an area that's not maintained lawn where the water has to move through that before it gets to the tidal marsh, okay? And to answer your question about lawn fertilization, what we did at General's residence, at planning and zoning, we just made a statement to the planning and zoning board, it would be all natural. So there's no chemicals used at the General's residence. The residences there, I won't go through the whole thing. They're much higher than the tidal marsh. They're probably about 10 to 15 feet. The water's all moving down to the marsh. It's 8 different units in the center of Madison. They're all built. The lawn does not have any chemicals on it. So everyone liked the idea of the buffer and the lawn area back there. All right. Are there any questions on any of this?
John, can you just go through the quantities?
Yeah, if you like, it's all on the,
It's here, we can see it.
yeah.
Yeah.
18 trees. Let's see, 50, about 110 pieces of shrub material. And that would be, just so you know, that would be a woody ornamental. Mountain laurel. There's no mountain laurel there, but mountain laurel is a woody ornamental. And then I didn't add it up, but you're probably at over 2,000 pieces of herbaceous perennial. So it's quite a substantial buffer planning that we've listed out what we're going to plant. You know, we always ask that there might be, if we went to plan all this, I'm just going to use an example. And let's say we couldn't find wild pink, we would just take the number and use another area. And I would go through that with your zoning enforcement officer at the time of planning.
About 1,500 plants in the buffer.
Thank you. So the buffer itself, from a professional standpoint, it's gonna control the runoff of the water before it gets to the marsh.
And how much is it gonna block the view of the structure?
Well, if you look at my planting, it's not a hedge. It's individual placement, and you want the plant material to look like it's naturally occurred on the area, if that makes sense to everyone. I made a suggestion. One of the changes I made was I had two different size trees. So if I'm using a 3-inch black gum, okay, which is going to probably be 3-inch caliper, is probably going to be 18 feet tall, 20 feet tall. I'd also like to use a 2-inch caliper, which is probably going to be 14 feet tall. So it's going to look like both trees naturally occurred on the site. Okay, I think that's very important in one of these planting designs. So if someone was out in the water where my finger was, they're going to see these along the edge, and it's going to soften some of the views of the house. Is it going to block the house? No, it's not going to block the house. The reason we don't want it to block the house is the house wants to look out on the marsh, which is the most important part of the whole project, right?
Okay, well, thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Just quick, crabby little details or silly little details. Phragmites coming out of this or not?
Good question.
No Phragmites there. Or
Okay,
there
good
is?
question. Realistically, they don't want a machine going past the wetland line.
Right, got it.
Okay, so
And
I'm going to use General's residence. I'm just going to go back to General's residence. We just finished there. Okay.
Yep.
We went right down to the wetland line.
Yep.
We took all the invasives out.
Yep.
We planted this buffer.
Yep.
They hired a company called All Habitat that has a state license to remove Phragmites in the marsh.
No. That's a
So
net positive to me. I'm obsessed about marshes
that's
and pulling Phragmites out and getting some cattails reestablished.
correct.
Huge difference in the ecosystem.
But just remember, we
You can't.
can't really go past
You
that.
can't do it.
But there are options to get back in there. I haven't really researched this. I apologize. I couldn't be at another meeting. I had a kind of a major hip operation at the beginning of the year. I couldn't move around. I was housebound for almost a month and a half. I'm back moving around. I wasn't really out in the marsh. The snow kind of eliminated that. We can look at that if that was something you wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just interested in what your take was on that and what your
Yeah, there's
theories
a lot
were.
of Phragmites there.
And, yeah, there is, yeah.
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 And the other thing that I was pleasantly noticing is you were mentioning bayberry as one of the woody shrubs that might be doing there. I mean, half of the marshes, healthy marshes along the Connecticut shoreline, they have that natural buffer of
Yeah.
bayberry out there.
Yeah.
You can look over it from the window and it looks 100% natural and it's
Yes.
healthy as hell.
All the material in the plant list, just so everyone knows, this is
Yeah.
all native, okay? The shrub material, I tried to keep to a size so it wasn't gonna be like 8 to 10 feet top. It was probably more in the 4 to 5, 6 to 7 foot range. The trees all have the same, the size that they're gonna grow to, okay?
You're gonna hear the architect speak again?
Yeah, I just want to add, Joe Ryan again, back for the record, I just want to add, supplement a couple of things. I'm talking with the owner and listening to John and so forth. So they would actually own this property, but there's also a 3-acre property here, the marsh, that they would also own. I just asked them when that came up, and Michael said that he would be open to bringing All Habitat in and removing the Phragmites from that marsh.
Yeah, I mean, the state's had a weird relationship with that plant. I know people that were sued by the state for removing Phragmites, and then at other moments, they're literally going out there and mowing it down.
You have to be licensed.
Yeah, so
And it depends on.
I don't know that
It depends on the method used too, because there is a chemical, it's basically Roundup, right?
I
what they're
think
doing?
they use a chemical.
Okay. Because it looked like it was cut down at Back River.
Joe said it best. You can't really just go in there if you don't have a state license to
Right,
remove
of
it.
course. Yeah.
And there's a certain way to remove it. It's got to be cut in a certain year. The
Right.
chemical's got to be applied. And it's usually a 3-year process to get rid of it.
Yep.
And then it's a maintenance program.
Right, because you get cattails for a year or two and then it's gonna be gone.
And then the native material is gonna come back in once that Phragmites.
Yeah.
No,
And if you do it wrong, you can make it worse.
Yes, you do. You can hurt a lot of other items.
So you're saying that they a contract to purchase this property and the property next to
adjacent
it?
property
Ah,
into the
I
market.
didn't
The other
know.
one's 3 acres and it sort of goes around the whole.
Yep. I know. I just didn't know that you were contract for both of them. Okay.
And if we had like rear yard setback issues to property line, we could merge the two and be okay with that, but the wetland line doesn't change if we do that, so it doesn't matter. We can't make the variances less by doing that, so,
Currently, are they owned by the same owner?
yes. Yep, correct, so. Yes, it's not a hedge, 40-foot high tree hedge to totally barricade it in. And none of us, if we had riverfront property, we wouldn't want a permanent vegetated barrier in front, right? So, but what they're proposing is 1,500 plants. Yes, some are low and shrubs and deciduous type of things, like goldenrod, if you look on there. But it provides that natural filter, and it does break up the visual from the river more than it is today. So even if you put one tree there, it breaks it up more than it is today because there are none, except on this end, there are 4 or 5 existing trees that are proposed to remain and be supplemented with this. So it's more so than you see on, a lot of plans that come before you. I think it's 425 feet. I looked at some material along the edge of the marsh on this property. And John had said that it's 10 to 15 feet wide in some areas. So it's a considerable area, which is more than the coverage being added by building in here. So we think it's a net positive improvement and a great balance for the property that's there. So with that, Chris Errol, is that how you pronounce it? I always say Errol. So we'll just run through the house and any questions on the architecture, and then that beautiful rendering that we brought you last time, you could bring that back up, but I think he wants to share one more with you, knowing that you have to keep those for the record. I'm not going to give you all of these in the bag.
So saying we don't have a place to put the big records.
Was that?
We don't have a file to put the big things in, so we can minimize.
Take a picture of it. Print it out.
Chris Arrow, Nautilus Architects, Halls Road and Old Line. So I guess this is the rendering that you saw last time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just add this. I know you don't like to get encumbered with lots of boards. You need to hold on to, but I thought this was an interesting one too, because it shows this more in context in relation to the adjacent building. And I think it's illustrative in showing how this design, works to advantage to blend the landscape and look more harmonious and contextual. That's a big part of my business. And to me, like the two most important things in design are the clients and the context. So these clients love the property. They love Old Lyme. They want some place that they can age in place, and this can be their forever home. So those were things that I took seriously and wanted to accommodate. And in the end, I feel like I was able to accommodate those and also create a building that spread out across it. To me, this is very like horizontal context. So having a building that spreads out across that context is the right kind of solution, as opposed to a building that goes vertically. So to me, Gateway has this hard and fast 100-foot line because they just need something quantitative. Whereas I feel like this is a contextual solution that's addressing other things like verticality, coloration, modulation of the forms. It's not just a big block. And so you can see the result of that versus this adjacent structure, where this is almost looks like it's like disappearing into the
So this-
grasses.
And that's proposed. That's not existing. That's proposed on the left.
This is my design.
Yep, and over to the right, that's
an
existing.
That's an existing.
Right, so you got a mixture of existing and proposed. You're trying to show us that existing to the right of you is much more
I don't
imposing.
want to disparage it. but I'm
It's, it's got more visual distraction.
It kind of speaks for itself.
Isn't there a house in the middle between the two?
Yeah,
There's a house right near the road. I think it's obscured by that.
Yeah, yeah.
so
but
this
it's
is taking a
built,
picture
they made
from
it, you
closer
know.
to that other house.
It's sort of midway between the two of them.
Okay. Cause I guess the question I have too is like,
Right.
the elevations of this property now, so where this house sticks out, where you're proposing to stick the house now, it's like 8 feet, 7 or 8 feet elevation, and then you're raising it up. Yeah, the bottom floor has to be 12 feet.
Yes,
And then it has to be.
yes, but those extremities that stick out into the 100-foot area are purposely stepped down. So as it gets closer to the road, for instance, the tallest structure is the garage,
Yeah.
but that's way far back. So it's stepping, it's kind of tiering, like in landscape, you would do maybe if you had a wall, you would put some intermediate tiers so that you wouldn't have this imposing 10-foot wall. You'd have a 10-foot wall, 7.5-foot wall, 5-foot wall with plantings. And then this is the same kind of concept where it's stepping down.
Well, that's very helpful because the architectural plans I saw before, it didn't make it, it was hard for me to see that. It was like, it looked like it was just straight out, and the grade level. Do you have the drawings of the elevations?
Yeah, you have elevation drawings and you can peek at.
No,
Well,
to look
there's
at.
two
Proposed.
Here, yes.
two-story areas. Isn't one at the garage and one closest to the water? Right, there it is.
Yeah.
It just shows the grade is like pretty even. You're saying that's the grade there, so it goes from like 7.5 feet up to like 11 feet.
Yes.
That's the 4-foot grade.
Mhm.
Okay.
So can you explain these pictures then, what we're looking at?
So this is
One at a time?
this is the roadside. This is the garage.
Uh-huh.
That's the courtyard. That's
Yeah.
the main body of the house, the kitchen dining area.
Uh-huh.
This is moving around, let's go clockwise. So
Well,
Um,
stick to the same upper left picture.
mhm.
So we're at Boston Post Road, 156. So we're
Yeah.
looking at the garage, the main part of the house, and what's sticking up right
That's
there?
the living room. Living room.
And where's the buffer?
It's in
The landscape buffer?
Where's the buffer?
Oh, yeah,
who did that?
that's over
So
here.
you have that 2-story area right on the water. You don't have it just backed by the road. To say you're stepping down and all, you suddenly have this 2-story area on the water side.
By the way, that's a non-navigable water. That's very
Okay.
shallow. The navigable water is.
You mean over here?
Yeah, that piece you're pointing.
That's not what, that's just Phragmites over there.
So now I need to see it on here. So where is that 2-story area here? Here. Yeah, right here, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so well into that 100-foot setback. I mean, it's not like it's back here. It's here. So,
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about it being low.
Yeah, but no,
profile, stepping down, but you have that.
But the navigable
there.
waterway is over here. It's not over here.
How's this?
So I'm looking at it as the road, the property, and the water this way. Even though the 100-foot setback is technically from wetlands, but these are uninhabitable wetlands.
It's on the coastal jurisdiction line.
And it's here.
That's an
And it's
example of how the
It's
coastal,
this right here,
it's that line in this case,
right? But it's
just-
this piece right here.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
but it just points out exactly what I'm getting at, is that this is a 100-foot line technically from the wetlands, but these wetlands are not wetlands with someone looking at your house.
Mhm.
They're uninhabitable.
If you load into a kayak at Black Hall, you're not gonna end up getting the view that you've got you can't get up in that deep into that marshy area to
Too much.
even see that view. I
Right.
mean, there's no waterway right there
No.
that you can even kayak in. I think,
Unless it floods.
yeah,
Yeah.
without
I've
a
definitely
flood.
seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty flooded. I would.
So you're the house, so let me go over there to the bottom right hand. So the front part is the garage.
This is the garage. That's a, office. Guest bedrooms and primary bedroom.
The primary bedroom is at what elevation?
It's at 12.
But it says it's like at grade level. How can that be?
Oh, like it's not on still, whatever, raised.
Right, so if this is the
Hmm.
garage and this is the part going back, and then you have this long step, and then you have the you're saying that this is the master bedroom here,
Yeah.
and that's at 7.5 foot elevation. So
Mhm.
how can that be stepping down?
Well, it's shown correctly here. It's not dropping down like this. It's up here at that elevation.
So it's not stepping down. You can't step down when you're going downhill into a flood zone. So I guess I'm just trying to, these drawings are very hard for me to wrap my head around.
Well, that's why I thought these renderings would be much
But-
more
but
indicative.
Plans are more
We walk by.
where we work with.
And
So-
we gotta have dimension plans that allow you to build that structure.
Right.
So we're trying to understand what that structure.
So
looks
one of my
like.
concerns is, right now, the house is at the highest level of the property. It's like, you don't even need to elevate it. It just needs, it needs to be FEMA compliant, but it doesn't need to be elevated. You're going down here. So here the elevation is like 11 feet, and then it goes, but you're down here, you're at 9 feet, 8 feet, 7 feet. So you're going downhill closer to the flood zone, closer to the BE flood zone.
Mhm.
And but I don't see it on these plans.
Do you have other
The
renderings?
grade, the,
Exterior renderings?
No, these are
Wrong.
these are the elevations. So let him finish what you were about to say something.
I'm just saying that there's a continuous floor elevation that's up out of the floodplain,
Yeah,
and that's the grade dropping, like you're saying, that's the grade.
right. So
going-
the design doesn't step down. You can't step down.
But the roof lines, I'm saying that the mass of the building, not in terms of the floors, as much as the apparent scale of the building, with these taller pieces back farther away.
Okay, so the top upper left-hand corner is from the street.
Mhm.
The lower right-hand corner is from this side.
Yes,
Okay. And the lower left-hand corner
it's from the
is
water,
from,
the water. So I'm just saying, see, this piece and this piece are the closest to you. And then these in the background are fainter, they're drawn fainter to indicate that they're farther away, and you can see that those are higher, so they're stepping up.
and you're saying, so you're saying that this lower level there is gonna be,
Is that?
that's not floor level elevation 12 feet or
This.
higher.
The floors, is that? Everything's at elevation 12 or higher.
Then what's that box there?
Which one? This one?
No, the one that
Lower
was at the
right
end.
drawing farthest to the left.
Yeah,
This one?
Lower
Yeah.
right drawing
Oh,
farthest to
Oh.
left. Yes.
yeah, that's this one. The floor of that would be higher than it is. It would be at this height.
so what am I looking at on this drawing?
This one?
Yeah,
What's that box?
what's that box?
That's the primary bedroom.
And what's the floor of that primary bedroom?
Yeah, what's the elevation of the floor? It
Uh,
looks like it's really low. Just confused,
Like
I
on the
know.
ground. It looks like it's on the ground.
which is not a 12 elevation, it's a 7 or something.
Okay, I'm just trying to. This is correct. This is the view around the corner from that. From the water side.
Okay,
Okay.
So this is the correct elevation. That's dropped lower than it would actually be.
So you're saying that drawing is incorrect?
Yes, this needs to be up at this level.
It's missing one line.
Right.
Or something.
Okay,
He's
so
just
these
got to
two
lift that
things,
that box up.
Yes.
these two things are actually the same piece.
The same.
That's the
height.
same room.
Yeah, same room.
Is
Yeah,
the
that's
roof
the
line
master
the
bedroom.
same? On the two on the lower right, is the roof the same height?
These two?
No, on the next picture,
so,
the lower right. Are they?
so you have something there, you're saying, well, that one's not drawn right, but you said over to the left, you have something that looks lower than what's on the right.
Points.
Yeah, it's easier to point. People. Thank you. Okay, there you go. On the top of the microphone.
So this one's
Oh,
got to get
sorry.
lifted to that line. That's really
Right.
what's looking wrong in the drawing. Is that
And you're
true?
saying so-
It should be up here.
But then what's down here?
That is your, this is the master bedroom. This is the,
Yeah, so I'm saying,
yeah,
So
point
this-
to it here. I've got these two pieces, point to it here.
so this piece he's saying is at the end of here.
Yeah, that's the
And
way I'm
this
thinking.
piece is saying is there.
Is that true?
Mhm.
Okay.
But this is an elevation drawing, so it does, you should see the height. So
Yeah, there's no label.
There's
heights
none
under
there.
here.
if there is something here, it's elevation 15.5. That 15.5 is even higher than what's over here. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm struggling with this rendering and how this can be shown to be FEMA compliant.
We have a foundation plan here that's showing all of the floor elevations and what they are.
Just flip it
So-
over, it's stable.
So other than the garage,
The garage says 13.
so the garage is at,
So you're
13.
saying this is elevation 18.5? That doesn't make any sense.
That's more than the minimum FEMA needs. You need for FEMA.
But the point is,
If you're gonna really raise it that high. then-
this is at elevation like 9. And then you're saying the floors, so this is the elevation is at the top of the
Top of the
building?
foundation, right? That's what you're
Yes.
saying it
Well,
is.
the first floor elevation is what? So what's the first floor elevation of this building?
this is at 18.5. This is at 15.5. This is 2 levels, so this is at 12 and 21.5.
So if that's the case, then that means you're bringing in like several feet of fill to bring the fill up to the lower. Because the thing is like, if this is 18.5, the floor level, this is elevation, say 9.
Mhm.
So you're saying the floor level is 9 feet above the ground, but your elevation drawings say that oh,
There was more foundation, I believe.
Yes, so that's what that higher elevation is there.
so you're saying that 18.5 feet.
Mhm.
And it's sticking out there, it's at 7 feet. So you're saying that floor elevation is 11 feet higher than the natural concurring grade? How are you gonna do that without bringing in massive amounts of fill?
So,
The plan is to just build a solid base under the building.
So it'd be
Like,
just
is that what
exposed
this
foundation
is?
that high or?
Yeah, just stone
Crawl
face,
space under. Yeah.
That's
Crawl
what this
space.
is. That,
only in areas that are above, the crawl space floor would be a 12.
A crawl space, which is open with fence.
No, it's out of the floodplain.
It's not out of the floodplain. That's the point. It's not in the V flood zone, but it's in the AE 11 flood zone.
Yes, but the crawl space floor would be a 12.
So this house is sounding higher all the time.
No, the floor levels of the house vary. So there's steps down to different levels. So I think that's where the confusion is. We're used to seeing one floor at one level, right? And then another floor at another level. This is different. Chris probably could explain it better than me, or Michael probably could even explain it better than both of us. But you could look on the site plan, and the site plan shows the grade area in the courtyard there, and it's 15.0. And then right here, since the floor varies like we show on the site plan, this section of the house is at the 15.5. And then interior, there's a step
The
up to the
natural grade says 9 feet.
But I think I understand where you're going. The natural grade is at 9 feet. That room will be lower than the one that's at 15. So interior, a couple of steps down, and that will still be at 12.
Yeah.
Feet there, if you're maintaining 12 across, just from the various heights of the topographic.
Yeah, we're building the foundation on natural grade here. That's why we have steps down to the natural grade. That's all on the existing grade. On the courtyard side,
You don't
as
see that on these elevations.
on the courtyard side, as we get out of the 100-foot area, this area is filled to match the relationship of the garage and the driveway to the house. Get that level.
Where the garage is on the street side, the natural, ground level is 13.
Right. So your interior of your house will have steps that will go down and into your room.
Mimicking the slope of the land, exactly.
Right, to maintain, say, 12 feet above all
Because
the
the lowest point can't be below 12 feet, and the others are just massive.
I don't see that reflected.
No. This is 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, 11 feet. And so the highest elevation on this property, natural grade, is 11 feet. Down where you're building this house, it's between 7 and 8 feet.
So the 7 feet, if I'm understanding correctly, you can give or take a bit, 7 feet of elevation to get to the 12 feet, you'll add the
5 foot of.
feet of foundation. And then as the house goes back, there may be steps.
You'll have a foundation that will be filled with crushed stone.
I agree.
There's no
I don't see that.
scale on here.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're really not showing like natural grade drop. Well, I guess you're showing it there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is that? That's
I mean,
like,
that's what we're talking about, right? This is, this is when you're down to 7 feet, you got a 4 or 5 foot to get it up to 12.
right.
And then you have this drop down, but you're
Well,
saying it's
that's
not
just,
a drop
I
down.
think
a
that was,
mistake.
that slipped by the,
But then this was also
screener.
But this is saying elevation 12 feet.
Mhm.
And you're drawing the grade as just a couple feet below that. But the natural grade is many more feet below that.
7.
So it looks like you're bringing either these are not drawn accurately, or you're bringing in lots of fill.
The intention is not to bring fill in outside of the perimeter of the house. So in some cases, this is drawn more representative of the amount of exposed wall, than so that there would be more exposed wall than.
The only place that might see some fill is the courtyard in the middle, because that will be pervious and for plantings. And
Right.
we wanna have that.
Well, it shows that
Do you
you're putting in fill.
Do you think
Here.
this was drawn in accurately? This box right here, the master bedroom?
I think it.
Was that drawn in correctly? Do you think? It's a real question. I mean, I was just gonna ask, could you put some notes on there to make it more
Right.
the way you really think it is? Like,
When
use
we-
my pen and.
When we
make
grant
it more
variances,
To be honest
All right,
with you, we've been working really hard and
Yeah.
across geographic distances,
Yeah.
Zoom calls and things to try to address the ZBA's concerns. about all these various things. So we've had a lot of balls in the air. And we've been shifting and
Yeah,
pushing
we're
and
not
and
trying to
stretching. And
be.
so I'm just saying that these drawings have been in flux. Up until, a couple of hours ago, to be honest. So,
Yeah, I don't know, if you could just help us
Yeah,
understand.
this is
that.
This little
slightly
thing.
different, but it's the same for that issue.
Maybe
But
this
the
one
other thing is
helps.
like here, it's saying the elevation here is 12 feet. Here it's saying
But
it's
the
like,
grade at that point,
Oh, yeah,
7 or 8.
Nancy has my copies.
So there's got to be
Oh,
an
oh, I have-
elevation wall for
Okay,
that.
let's look at. Is this good? Yeah.
oh,
No,
okay.
this is only two. Yeah, this is third one.
Okay, guys, we need one person speaking at a time. Because we're,
Also between paper stuff line, I'm gonna guess the recording is gonna be hard to understand.
This
I appreciate
is
there's a
one
lot of paper that
there.
needs to be turned, but we just need to make sure to talk when we're not turning pages. Nancy, there's a lot of pages on the table as well. You were just comparing one thing to another without any reference to what pointing to.
Where's the recorder?
Well, what she's been looking at is the multi-page chair copy of Auster 12/4/25. It's got elevation
Here
drawings
it is.
that have a little different presentation than the other one we've been referencing through most of this conversation. These look a bit different than those, yes?
Well, the drawings look the same, but the elevations are different.
Okay.
that's correct.
So if this is elevation 12 and the natural elevation is between 7 and 8, then it's hard without any scale, but is that actual representation of what the grade is, natural grade? I guess, it's very helpful to know exactly what we're talking about here. And what's FEMA compliant and what elevations and what's bringing in.
Well, I think that, to address the FEMA compliance, this has all of the elevations. So there's nothing below flood that needs venting or anything like that. Right?
okay. And you're also now saying you're not bringing in large amounts of fill. How much fill are you bringing in? Cubic yards.
We're not filling anything outside the perimeter of the house.
That didn't answer my question. How much additional fill do you need to go from base elevation now to 12?
In the basement?
There's no basement. This is FEMA. Okay, no basement at all.
Slab, right?
It has to be on slab.
Yeah.
So how much fill are you bringing in to get from 7 to 12?
A slab at 12.
So that's the question. How much fill for the house is being brought in to get from the elevations that are there now to 12?
So the first floor elevation needs to be 12.
Mhm.
So if you have anything under 12 feet, then that needs to be an open vented area. Or it can't be, can't be
Be
just
built on slab.
That's the crawl space they were talking about. So it'll be crawl space with flood vents, so now open to that marsh side. That's accurate.
I mean, the problem is not to be too problematic, but we really don't sign drawings that do not show what we intend to let you build. And this does not look like anything we could let you build in that particular orientation, in that particular configuration. So it would be, I mean, she's going to sign and stamp it and say, this plan is the one we okayed, and doesn't look like anything.
Not complete.
that
Yeah,
could
I mean,
work.
to ask a difficult question, do we need more time? I mean, is this something that, since they were working up until just several hours ago, would this benefit from
Yeah,
another?
it's not fair to you or us to look at this so quickly.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit, but I think we should raise some of the issues and say what we concerned with or not to make sure that you can, I guess the thing is, these plans, there's no scale. There's no clarification of what's natural grade or fill grade. Because next to the garage, you are planning to bring in fill, because right now it's 9 feet and you're planning to put in up to 12 feet. That's what the drawing says on the site plan. So the site plan is very, very clear. We know Joe. He makes things very clear, but these architectural drawings are very not clear. And I understand you gave an overview of what you wanted, but we need to make sure it's something
What we're gonna approve. Yeah.
what we're gonna approve if we approve it. And the thing is, elevations are very important, especially in a flood zone. And the thing is, you may not be in the VE flood zone, but you're in the AE flood zone. And so there's there was a request, a report also from the town engineer. And he had some questions about, what is make sure that there is no basement. And so what is underneath these floors? Is it slab? Is it where are there vents? Is it anything below grade? What's the elevation? How much fill is there? It's just, I'm not sure that would make a difference in my opinion overall, but I think it's something that we usually stand beside plans. And I think I found last time we've understood the reasoning for why you want to extend so far last time, because you wanted to have plenty of bedrooms for your relatives or your family and stuff like that. And we know you wanted a pool because you swim a lot. And you wanted to be far from the street because you don't want to be the street noise. We heard all that. But the point is, we need to say, what's the hardship? Is it the minimum to address the hardship? Is it in line with 10 purposes on the regulations? Is it FEMA compliant? Do we have plans that we know what's going to be put in place? You have more detailed landscape plans than you have architect plans. And I know you're working very quickly, but also we're trying to absorb all this too at the same time. And bringing fill into this area is also very concerning. One concern I have too is that, yes, you're going to be FEMA compliant, but you're also going to be closer to the V flood zone. You're going to be, less protection from waters. But anyway, I don't really know where to go at this point.
I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and my experience has always been that this was really an exercise primarily about the site plan and all of the machinations of that. And that the architectural, I mean, of course you can't, can you build from that drawing? No.
No,
I mean,
it's gonna
be 50 pages of drawings. So there's.
No, I understand, but elevations, what is at each level?
Yeah. There should be a lot
scale.
more numbers on this. It should be a lot more complete, like what we're looking at here. And also the scale is really important.
And what's
because
natural grade
this
and
could
what's
be
fill?
anything
Because
without scale.
even here, you have a garage at level, on the ground level, but you're bringing in several feet of fill there. And then you're zooming down here and you have something that looks like it's 12 feet, but it's only over 7.5 foot elevation.
Right, and some of this you're contending was gonna end up being crawl space, and we can't tell which pieces in this represent crawl space.
Yeah, and
Above
how
the-
much is, because,
It's not,
yeah,
it's hard for us to picture exactly what's going on there.
I'm trying to think. of
And
it.
that, I don't know what that 18 feet was, but that sounds pretty high. Is this the minimum or, FEMA in 1 foot?
So to Eric's point, is there some way to grant some extension that or
Yeah, we don't.
make a ruling based on a contingency of getting this information in the next X number of days or?
May I ask a question?
Come on up.
Thank you. Michael Oster.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You remember from last
Yes,
time.
yes, very nice.
Nice to see you guys again. So I take responsibility for a lot of the things that may not be clear because what we were trying to do is have the house sort of mimic and naturally, go with the land, and the land slopes down. On the front corner, I thought well, I'll refer to the site plan, the front corner where the garage is, I planned around 12 and 13 in actual grid.
It says
so-
11 and 11.
I may be mistaken, but
Let
I
him,
thought,
whatever yours,
Let
let him make his.
it's like over
point.
here in this, on this corner over here.
No, but that's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I may be referring to this stuff.
Yeah, but Susan, that's the new grade after the bringing in of the fill. The natural grade is these dotted lines, which is 10 and 11 feet.
Okay.
So then if you're making this 13 feet, then you're bringing in 2 feet of fill.
Mhm.
And if you're down here, see, this is saying, this is 8 feet here, this is 7 feet here. So you're,
Right.
this corner of this house is like 7.5 feet elevation.
That's right. And
And so
at the
maybe-
bottom part of it, it would just be shrubs around it, but that wouldn't be any fill. I think we try to minimize the fill over here.
But I'm
we need
saying.
to make it a
but
little
I'm
bit
saying
more.
what
So
we're saying-
referencing it on this is what we're talking about, the piece here, right?
This is 13 feet.
Yeah, as we're going
And that's
down,
with
this
2
is
feet of
just gonna be
fill.
a foundation type structure?
Yeah.
And it'll be empty and crawl space underneath it?
Correct.
Okay, it's not that clear
With
for me.
vents in it.
What problem?
Pardon?
With vents, flood vents. in it.
Correct.
Well, we heard crawl space empty, we heard foundation filled with.
Yeah, with
stone,
a slab,
too.
right. So
Is
we
that-
gotta know whether this is
Different-
filled to a slab or it's actually crawl space. We need to know that.
And
So I don't. you-
Jacobson's gonna have to weigh in on that as well. I'm
Sorry,
not sure you can
This
bring
is
in
the
that much
town
fill. in the AE zone.
Engineer's review of the FEMA compliance of the building.
Mhm.
And he had some questions and concerns.
Okay.
I don't know if you've had a chance to address any of them.
I haven't seen these. Joe, I don't know if you've seen these. I guess the question I wanted to ask, I think some of these aren't clear. One of the issues that Tracy and I have is that we have the property under contract for
Yeah.
another 3 or 4 weeks, and then,
Oh.
and then we probably need to abandon it. So is there a way that we could quickly mark up some of these things just to make it clear and label some of the things that maybe we didn't label correctly or clearly, so that at least you'll know what you'd be approving and disapproving. The intent is to bring as little fill as possible, with the exception of the courtyard, because that would be where we would do planting. And so we'd bring fill and soil, and you want it to be soft and you want it to be permeable and drain, of course. We'd rather have no fill anywhere else, but there may just be stone around the perimeter at the bottom with vents, of course.
Yeah. I'm putting
sorry.
my copy. I just
Sorry.
don't let go. So,
I mean, I think we need a little more information. I understand that
Yeah.
the time is critical.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure what the procedure is for
I
maybe
guess
addressing that, but.
I guess, I feel like we need to have something that we can stamp and sign and say, this is what's going to be, this is what we're approving.
And it has to be clear.
And I think site plan, I understand.
Mhm.
I'm not saying I agree with all of it, but I understand it. I think last time we had some questions, but you weren't here, unfortunately, and that you were saying just the concept of why,
Mhm.
but not exactly the what.
Right.
And then, and it also is concerning to me is that, I hate to quickly just, I don't think you could just quickly write it down and scale and,
Not to the point where we could actually approve tonight,
Yeah,
because then
right.
it's not.
I just have a question on possible solution.
thank you.
Are there any other applications for the March 19th meeting?
Well, there's gonna be one that will be scheduled.
There's one.
No, but it's we'll get to it in the agenda later. It's an amendment to a pre-existing variance. It's not a big thing. But you're saying you've 3 or 4 weeks.
I think we probably could make it to the next hearing, maybe we'd have to do something.
Yeah. The 19th, that, I think we would feel better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I feel like you would have more time.
And you wouldn't be
I mean,
under the
just if you
gun.
could-
Yeah,
if you
I
could
mean, I
clarify, 'cause
apologize
It seems
for
like you're all trying to do
the ambiguity,
right
we're not-
thing.
Yeah.
pride myself on being very accurate and thorough, so I'm not happy about the nature of this conversation. I'd like to rectify it as fast as I can.
We appreciate, you're working under the gun and very diverse. We're not criticizing you at all. We're just saying what we need, and if you can help us get.
I
it, we'd
totally
be-
understand what you're saying.
But like a date and a scale and some, what's the
Correct.
natural grade,
elevations, yeah.
what's fill, what
Right.
the actual elevations are, flood vents.
You got
If
plug.
if I may mention one thing, and
If you
then.
don't- This report from the engineer, it's
Oh,
it's
sorry.
on the website.
I was blocking that.
It's on the website.
Okay,
It's in the meeting materials.
so we'll of course change these plans. Thank you, if you'll allow us to come back on the 19th and fix for your comment
Yeah.
as well. So we were all working from, this is the only part that's the corner that doesn't look at the open water. This looks this way at the open water. This looks this way at just the marsh. So this floor can't be lower than 12. And this is the only place where there are 2 floors. The main floor of the house, the reason that's raised up is because that relates to this. This is more like a pool house. And this is really the main living space. So that's why this looks like it's raised up to your point.
But the
higher.
is here.
So this floor is at 21.5 and this floor is 3 feet lower. So that's at 18.5. Now, the land slopes down as you're
Yeah.
going toward the river, and that's where the master bedroom slopes down and extends. So the floor slopes down and the ceiling slopes down, and it doesn't have as high a ceiling as here, so that it would be less imposing as you're getting further out, not only for us, but also for anybody looking from the water side. Just the part that's closest to you is lower and slopes down, and it feels like it's sort of mimicking the land with natural woods and things. Not that means anything other than just to say that that's what our intent was, which I think wasn't reflected.
So how high would that roof line be if it's lifted to
The part that's
first floor is
extending down.
12 feet and then the.
So
Above grade, how far is this above
Yeah.
grade?
Because that's 2 floors plus raised 12 feet.
No, this,
No, it's
oh,
raised
yeah.
up,
right?
So
It's raised.
I
raised
think
like
this is
7 or 8?
5 feet, yeah.
Yeah, this is about 4 or 5 feet above current grade.
right. And then this would have like a 9.5 foot ceiling, and then this. So it'd be far lower than I think the 35 that
You need
you're allowed,
elevations.
but yeah.
You need a,
Because we
Yeah,
have,
yeah,
I mean, not that we base everything on previous experiences. We had an experience ages ago where we did a less than fully dimensioned drawing and the owner just went ape and did all sorts of things. And we're like looking at it and saying, oh my God.
That's
And I said, it
different, yeah.
didn't say how tall that was. So that went to
Careful now.
court and it was ugly as can be.
And by the way, so this floor does get raised up. This floor is at 18.5 again, so it could relate to the second floor here. But it is only 1 floor. On one level, I should say. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this question, but are there any aspects of it that are troubling in that maybe we could address when we make these corrections? Like anything's about it that you hate?
Yeah, I'm feeling you're way too much into that 100-foot setback.
Yeah, I think that's.
There's
kind of
just
the
too
next
much
part.
house. It's just not the minimum.
I think it's the
Not
same
the
thing,
minimum.
we raised before, the minimum addressed in hardship, and the hardship is. Our argument with hardship was there's only 6% of the property is buildable, but 6% of a lot this size is still 2,600 square feet, and you can make a couple stories on it, so it's not like that's a hardship.
It is an odd shape because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
almost like a quarter.
yeah,
of
but
You asked the question.
Yeah, but.
Oh, no, yeah.
It is an odd shape, and not saying that you couldn't some small increment, but you're like, I think it's just like over half the house
So
is in this
I
setback.
know, but I keep going back to this phenomenon, that
Oh, well,
making a 2-story house that's out of
There's
the.
a problem with that
It's-
house.
I'll tell you that
That house, I don't know if
Something
that
that's
was
out,
legal.
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, pushing it back out of the 100-foot line and making it all 35 feet tall isn't necessarily giving you a result.
it'll be
that
a
you
lot
want.
more visible from.
Yeah, it's gonna be gigantic.
Well, not only that, it's all very close to the street. So I don't know who would make the investment here in order to, make this investment. You need to have a house of a certain value or at least sentimental value so that you're willing to make that investment. So I'm not saying that to complain. I guess I'm saying to ask the question of, in order to have this spread out and nice and feeling like it's a value enough for us so that we make this investment to shore up the land and to preserve the wetlands, we sort of need to come out a little bit. We tried to do it with a cup here lower and here as little as possible. And here's where the river is. It's like a mile away. And this is just the marshes. How do we do that? How do we achieve that balance?
Well, how
I
about
guess
if
is the
you
question.
made more of your house, more of your house here, and then you put your gardens on the other side?
Well, the problem is you could, standing here, you hear the cars like it's a highway because this is all open and we can't put trees because this is all marshland here. And so what we're trying to do is go away from the street. That's the problem we have with the
Right.
current seller is going to leave that house, and then he was planning to like put a garage and a high structure over here, which would be tragic, really, from this view, and also, just from the perspective of the value and the attractiveness of the site. So the reason we were trying to push it out and make it lower.
We understand your reasons, but we're just saying, like, we
You have a different
legal-
responsibility, I
we have
understand.
we have to say, what is the legal hardship or an legal alternative to unusual hardship? We have to say, is it the minimum to overcome the hardship and allow reasonable use of the property? Is it in line with the intent and purpose of the zoning regulations?
Right.
And so it's kind of like, so it's like I mentioned it to last time, where I'm struggling with is this the minimum? Yes, I know why you want to be farther away from the street, but you could build more of your house out of the setback, but you don't want to.
Right.
And you could, but you could.
But
put
then
your
we
house-
couldn't fit a pool and
But
well-
things you could make, I guess.
But that's why we're
fine.
making all these other improvements as an offset, hopefully, to that one request.
Right. And so the thing is, like, before the nonconformities was this 10 feet on a little chunk of the house on the side setback.
Right.
And it was also somewhat in the front setback, but there's also like a 20-foot buffer between the property line and the right of way. So it's kind of like,
well,
if we weren't thinking about your considerations are noise and your view, but we're looking at, if we just let everybody do whatever they wanted,
Right.
because they wanted to do it, then why have a zoning board of appeals? So the thing is, like,
well, is
Yeah.
it, do you take into account that somebody's got to fund this and maybe remove the pragmatics from the rest of it? So in order to do that, you don't want with the greatest of respect to the current seller, you don't want the current seller because the current seller is purely economic and he's going to say, of course I'm going to leave this. Why would I put any money into that? I'm just going to build something vertical here, just come in the line, and I'm not going to make any of this investment. I'm going to leave the septic system because it's already there. And so it's a balance that we were trying to achieve. We were trying to achieve it by making this lower, and we thought that this wasn't quite as sensitive. And I guess I'm looking for a little bit of guidance of how can we balance it better?
If I could buddy in on this one and ask Sylvia for some advice on this. I mean, partly, we've always been deeply respecting of the DEP version of how to think about this, how it impacts the ecosystem there. And that seems to be generally a net positive. They're saying, here's all the cool things you're doing. You're moving the septic, you put a buffer, you did all these things.
Driveway.
From their point of view, it seems like they're willing to say that's a net positive. Then we bump in Gateway, which seems to have a new sort of way they're looking at things. And I'm just asking you, the fact that zoning board of appeals gave a similar in some ways similar situation, gave it a positive, and Gateway sued. Is that going to happen to us? And should we care about that when we're thinking about how we should run this? Do we have to wait till case law settles around that issue? Is that a wiser choice for us? Or what would you be your advice on that?
I think you should be making independent decisions based on the plan that you have before you and the judgment that you have available to you.
and I think that.
And that could include not making the Gateway a Trump decision. You're close the thing down.
So just to be clear. What happened with that case, and I appreciate that it's a lawsuit, but what happened is that Gateway appealed the ZBA's decision. So it is a lawsuit, but it is an appeal, just like as if you denied an application,
Right.
a landowner can appeal. So it's an appeal of a decision saying that the zoning board of appeals was incorrect in what they did.
Right.
So it's not a claim for damages or anything like
Right,
that.
right.
Anybody can claim I'm wrong or whatever the case is in appeal. So just to put that into a slightly
No,
different.
I misworded it. You're right.
No, and
Yeah.
in fairness, from but just, it's not a damages claim or anything like that.
Right.
Generally speaking, across the board, you should not be making your decisions based on whether you're going to get sued or not.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know what Gateway is going to do. So can I promise you that Gateway won't appeal your decision if you approve this? I cannot, just like I can't promise you that, I can sue you for wearing a black sweater. I won't win, but I can sue you for wearing a black sweater.
Right.
So that's not where your head should be. Your head should be, what is the law? Do I have availability? What is the right decision to be made independent of the chaos that's going on around us? Okay. So that means you look at this application, you look at what the law is and the facts of this particular case and apply your best reason.
Okay.
And generally speaking, when you do that, regardless of what happened in that case, it'll float. Okay. So I think that you should be singularly focused on doing the right
Yeah,
thing.
so ignore this other piece of,
I put it into context because the conversation about Gateway and the meaning of Gateway and the significance of their opinions is a hot topic.
okay.
We frequently talk about it.
Oh.
I also represent the Essex Zoning Board of Appeals, so there's a
Right.
lot of things being conflated in the same thing. So it's a hot topic. And context is very important to me. I try to give you guys the information so you know all of the factors available so you can make
Because
the best decision
I've had
possible.
lots of previous experience with gateway decisions that didn't seem anything like this, that they were higher impact for visuals from the sound. And it seemed to be always what the dialogue was about. And this seems not rooted in that to me very much.
Right, because
It
this,
just
from a
doesn't
view
seem like
standpoint,
this.
this is far.
Or maybe it's just different decision making happening at that pace.
It's a valid question to say, what do we do with what Gateway is telling us? I don't think that's a different question from, should we be concerned about the lawsuit?
Yeah.
No, fair
And
enough.
go ahead.
What you should do with the significance of Gateway is use your judgment.
Yeah.
It's your regulations. So a pet peeve of mine is in the Gateway letters, they say that it's violating the regulations. Well, one, that's not for you to say, and two, that's why we're here.
Correct.
So, I appreciate their perspective. I appreciate they have a role like you have a role and everything else. They're a referral. They're not the
They're
ones
giving us
making the decision.
advice. They're not telling
Okay.
us what to do.
They're not looking at your regulations in whole. They're looking at their singular piece. And they're reading it in a very broad fashion right now. Or conservative,
Is
depending on
it
how you.
correct that they also don't look at the beneficial things? Because what I found interesting about that meeting is they said, we applaud you for removing the driveway because now you're not gonna have fast runoff of fertilizer into and have red tide, right? We applaud you. They actually, I think, Joe, they used these words, and Chris, you were there
That'd
too.
be helpful. The minutes of the meeting or just summarize the meeting. Yeah, that'd be helpful.
And they said that that it's great that you bring, but we don't care because you're beyond the 100-foot line, so therefore we advise no.
They-
I'm paraphrasing, but basically they didn't take into account anything else.
They've made a policy decision.
Yeah.
And they're running with it
Mhm.
hard.
Mhm.
Again, it's noise. It's a lot of noise. They've made a policy decision. Maybe next year it's a different policy decision.
Right.
It's a policy decision. You know what the variables are before you. You know what you have available to you. It's an opinion like
Yeah.
that, and you can determine whether or not you buy it, you don't buy it. Just as if you had an expert here, you can say, I agree with the expert, or I don't know, there's something about what he's saying that I don't buy. You have that ability. That's why you're the decision maker. So you could dismiss what Gateway says. You have the ability to do that.
I
Okay.
guess the
So
question,
there's a balance between, well, they're there for a purpose and we want to respect that. I'm not suggesting that you don't, but it is your decision, independent of what they say. They're giving you an opinion.
And there's a whole stack of
In my
issues that play in here.
Yes, in my mind, the context of the letter that you're getting, I see boards all the time. They get those letters and they don't read it in the context of the reality of the situation. Like, wow, this is really bad letter. They must really hate it.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the context.
Mhm.
Okay, historically, the letters read differently and they cared about different things. Now it is very, and I'm not going to deny it. It is very much if there's anything there, we say no, period. It's just that plain black and white of a decision.
Yeah, no,
It's a policy decision that they've made. So I give you the context of what they're saying so that you're not weighing things more or less than you should be weighing them. Okay. In this case, Nancy,
yeah.
the minimum necessary language is being used frequently.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that it's wrong. This is not an infrequent kind of case where there's multiple variables that affect or may permit decision making. So you've got hardship, yes, and you're looking at minimum necessary to relieve the hardship, yes. If you've got FEMA, that minimum necessary is sort of in a different context, right? If you've got a reduction of nonconformities or an elimination of nonconformities, that minimum necessary isn't language in that context.
No, I understand.
But so just you're mixing and matching a bunch of different things. And it's why you look at each application individually and not based on precedent, because it's a different combination of things. So could you say, is this a minimum necessary to meet FEMA, or is this a minimum necessary to meet the hardship? Well, that's looking at the one vein that's running through this, but you're also being told we're eliminating hardship or eliminating nonconformities. We're adding a more substantial buffer. We're doing all of these things. We're making it.
It's a net positive from DEP.
Right. So all of those things factor in for you on the nonconformity aspect of it, the reduction of the nonconformity aspect, I think gives you some flexibility to consider some variables differently. Rarely do I see DEEP support these kinds of applications. That's how much they've passed the DEEP threshold with what they're offering. So what do you do with that? It's part of the context that you're making this decision in. So you don't ignore that, just like you don't ignore Gateway entirely, you just weigh it. Okay.
But that's
So
the
I think
question I
there-
had about the DEEP, because the DEEP, what they say is, I know they don't have a meeting. They just send us written response. But actually what they say in their response is, while we generally cannot support significant variances in coastal resource setbacks, in this case, variances will increase the distance from the river over that which currently exists.
Oh.
But that is not the case. I think if they looked at this tiny shed was only, 23 feet away from the,
You're
but
looking at the septic system and the paved driveway too. That DEP looks at those things.
no, I know, but I'm saying the house itself,
They didn't
come
say-
on,
they
come up,
didn't-
come
yeah,
up.
They didn't say anything about the house in there. They just said we're increasing distance of the same thing that we said.
The paved driveway is only 20-something feet away from the marsh now. We're removing the driveway's there because there's a cut in the street, but it's all pervious. So we're taking away the impervious and thousands of square feet of impervious. And the septic system is probably an antiquated, original, long pipe and stone deteriorated leaching system, all just putting pathogens and everything coming out of there into the marsh because it doesn't have the 100 feet to filter.
So you're
Here, we're
saying
putting
that
a code compliant more than 100 feet away.
okay, because I was saying, I thought they're comparing the distance of the structure. So this
It's
is
probably.
definitely closer, but it's not even on the assessor's.
Yeah,
part.
DEP doesn't care about structure. They care about the environment. They care about stormwater runoff. They care about fertilizer. They care about the health of the marsh. I tried to make this point to Gateway when I was there. I said, we have to look into the environmental aspects of this too, and not just what we're looking at from the river, because we all want to promote the health of the river and the health of the marshes. That's why all these boards and commissions are here, right? That's why these variances are in place. But the commissioner made a very valid point before. Yes, we're putting extra coverage in there, but we're taking care of that extra coverage by infiltrating that into the ground. Sylvia is absolutely right. We usually don't get, we didn't expect a favorable letter. DEP could have stayed neutral, but they were favorable, strongly favorable on this project. So that makes us feel good because we anticipate what they're going to say and we implement these things. We didn't have to add a buffer. It's not required anywhere, but we did because we know that DEP likes it and we know that it helps. It provides additional natural diversity right to the site that's not there now. You heard John say before, it goes right down into the edge of the marsh and right along the edge of the marsh where the sun could hit. Well, there's all kinds of invasive stuff.
Yeah.
So this plan takes out those invasives. They've already added in, we'll take care of the Phragmites in the marsh that we own. We're putting this thousands of square feet buffer in here. That's more than the coverage in the 100-foot area. So to us, that's a nice balance.
So
It's
you're
better
saying
for the
they've
environment.
committed to removing Phragmites in the marsh next to it?
Yes,
Yes.
So we're going to clarify that that's a condition of approval.
that can be. And the other thing, Nancy, that you brought up before is buffers.
you go back a year later and it's like nothing, right? It's junk. So what we've done in the past, and I know that Michael and Tracy, I didn't ask them, but I probably could speak for that because they are environmentalists and stewards of the environment themselves. But I'm sure they wouldn't be opposed to a 3-year maintenance plan, right? As a condition of the approval, that anyone from the town, or you could have a separate professional like John Cunningham go out and say, okay, this died off, we're going to replace that. And, you know, within 90% of the plan, make sure that it's good for 3 years. After 3 years, John, right? It should take care of itself. So we wouldn't be
would be
opposed to a
helpful.
condition of that either. So the Phragmites, the buffer, the maintenance of the buffer, we think fully offset and agree, and DEP obviously agrees. Two other things I wanted to mention. One is about Gateway. So Kip brings up a very valid point because all the boards and commissions, including Essex, they look at, are we going to get sued? And yes, maybe, we don't know. People sue everybody every day for weird things. Sorry, my coffee's too hot, coffee's too cold,
We
whatever.
don't
it
want to
might
say
be.
sued, though. We want to say they're going to appeal our decision.
Right, a lawsuit. It's still a lawsuit, right?
It feels like you're.
So I usually have a pretty good bead because we do all work in all the 9 lower Connecticut River towns that Gateway covers, right? I don't know of any other lawsuit other than the one in Old Saybrook, which happened to be our project, which is a corner of an in-ground pool. That one was initially upheld by the judge. The judge agreed with the town of Old Saybrook for the variances. They just filed for reconsideration. So that's why it's still percolating. But we fully think that they're not going to change the judge's initial decision and it's going to be continue to be upheld. That's not decided yet, I don't think, right? It hasn't come up yet.
So I just want to go back to the, you know, is it the minimum to, you know, is it the minimum you could do? And it's very hard to see from the way the site plan is drawn here because the bedrooms are like part of this whole long area here. And there's no dimensions on here. So it's kind of hard to
We are
see
going to
how big.
update the architectural
Yes,
plan.
I know, it's hard, but, you know, but that's going to be in March. So, and I know that
You
you'd
want
like a
feedback.
decision. So, this is a lot of house.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that we usually look at is if there can be any reductions, you know, and still fit within the parameters of what you feel like you need to live in a comfortable space. Any reductions that you could make in the size of the house would carry a lot of weight, especially because you're also putting in a pool, which is, you know, not a necessity. So, just from our legal standpoint,
When you say that size of the house, you're including the garage or the volume of it?
everything, you basically any place on these plans, if you
Within
can
the
pull.
100-foot mostly.
Yeah.
Yes, but even outside of the 100-foot, anything that can be reduced in size would be looked at, you know, more favorably.
So initially, we wanted to come in below the 4,000 because that's the
Right.
threshold, right? And
Right.
the zoning regulations, that's the threshold. So we wanted to come in just under, but
Right.
under, that's the guideline.
But it's
So
much larger than what's there right now.
it is
so,
larger than
yeah.
what's there right now.
So
yes.
I'm
And
just
anybody
saying-
that builds a new home there is going to be
Of
larger.
course, of course. I'm just saying that when we consider, since we are going back to the drawing board,
Mhm.
that anything that you feel like you can pull back a little bit would really help your case.
Yeah, it's excellent feedback. And
Yeah.
that's why, without even being told that last time, that's why we came back with
Yeah.
reductions
Mhm.
this time. It's 500
Yeah.
square feet up.
Yeah.
And we do feel that, you know, Sylvia just schooled us on minimum necessary, right? So it doesn't really apply. It's kind of a gray area because we're doing other things as well. FEMA compliance, health code compliance, pulling things out of the setback, making it dimensionally conforming to your zoning regulations. All those things have to be considered as
Mhm.
well. So when you look at it, the way we like to do these projects now, and as you know, we do a lot of them, but the way we like to look at it is it, at the end of the day, if it's all built, is it globally overall better for the environment, better for zoning than it was before? And safety too, bring that in, right? So we think, yes, we have a code compliant system, we have a FEMA compliant house, we have this huge buffer, we've added the maintenance plan and the Phragmite removal, which is not required as part of these.
No,
site plans. but-
the things you've done on the site are actually really positive. The
Right.
moving of the septic
Yep.
system, the buffer is, you know, increasing the wild
Mhm.
area as opposed to a full mowed lawn.
Mhm.
All of that is, that's great, but we need to consider everything and
Right,
that
and that's what I say too,
minimum
considering
thing
globally,
is-
considering everything, we think that it's a nice balance of all of that. But that's excellent feedback. And we do have to come back with dimension plans and show the grade and with the title block and everything, so you know who did it and when they did it.
Yep.
And so forth. So that will be done. One thing I did want to ask, they do have a very stiff contractual deadline.
Right.
From like on or around March 15th, which is before your next meeting. Is there any way to consider a meeting before that date? And we will, I don't want to speak for Chris, but we will get the plans to a week before whatever meeting date you decide. So you can digest them, review them, see the differences, and then we'll be fully ready for the next meeting. Does that sound okay?
There's been no thoughts of solar? Solar on your roof or anything?
But are we gonna do solar in this house or in this? You know, I was in the solar power business and the energy storage business.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And now in water PFAS decontamination and so. So the answer is, we've thought about it. You don't want to put solar on the ground because then it just takes up more of the ground. You can put it on the roofs, but it has to, in order for it to be efficient enough, you can't really have trees around.
Yeah.
And you need to have an open southern angle so that the angle of the sun, especially, the half the year of the winter, and along our neighbor to the south, there's a length of trees. And so we could, on the other part of the house, we could put it, but the roof would be so small and it would have to be flat. The roof would be so small that it would power such a small amount of the house. Energy storage is actually, from an environmental standpoint, is perhaps better. And the reason is because you're enabling the grid to stabilize itself. You're enabling the power that's already generated, that's just not used, to be used by taking the excess power during the night and then having that buffer so that you could discharge it during the day. And that's something that we would also.
So, you asked the question, so how about a special meeting? Are people open to a special meeting?
Depends on when it is. I mean, I think, in Gary, it's definitely an unusual circumstance. I think, given the
And
deadline.
we've got to get a full menu from the people in the room right now. It's got to be people that were here tonight
Yeah,
that are agreeing to show up to that. I'd be fine.
What date are we saying? What's the?
So our
proposed date?
regular,
If
so
it's a
I
Wednesday or
am
Thursday.
coming back from Florida on the 11th.
Okay.
The 15th is a Sunday. So you're talking like the 12th or 13th is the only possible days.
Oh, the 12th, we've got a Shoreline Gateway meeting,
yeah, I can't do the 12th.
two of us.
13th is a Friday.
What time is the Shoreline Gateway meeting?
It's from 7 to 8.
Yeah.
7 to 8.
Well, it starts at 7. It goes till when we're
Yeah,
done.
when we're done, yeah. So, I mean,
have the ability to join by Zoom? Or
I'll be driving that day.
You're driving from.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm good on the Friday, the 13th.
I could do Friday the 13th.
I'm not in love with it. I'll do it.
What did you say?
I said, I'm not in love with it. I'll do it.
I think that would be my.
Civic duty. I'm okay with that.
Stephanie?
yeah.
Kathleen?
What time? We start at 6:30?
If it works, we can do earlier as well.
No. I've got a,
She comes from far away.
well, I have a class till 5:30. I
But
could get here
you're
at
probably
6:30.
You're not seated though.
But
Well,
it's
unless
not-
nobody else can come.
She's our backup.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could come at 6:30, but it would be, I'm hauling. you know.
Everybody was here last time except for Richard, so we'd be there again next time. I could do the 13th at 6:30.
Yeah.
Eric, what do you think?
I'm your staff. If I need to be here, I'll be here. But I have meetings, 2 other meetings that week. So that would be 3 meetings in a week for me. But
But there's nothing, well, hopefully we'd have at least get the information ahead of time.
Yeah, and then the question is, if you're scheduling a meeting for that night, are you then gonna just hold both your applications that night and not have your regular meeting, rather than meet again the following week?
Well, I think we would do that.
Yeah, I would think we would do that.
That's why I had asked you before, if you had something on.
Yeah.
Anticipating.
But
So if you can combine it and then cancel the 19th meeting. that would be
Yeah.
good too.
But then that's not fair without asking the other.
No,
applicant.
we
I
have
know,
to
but we
ask
could
them
commit to
first.
worst case, we do it both nights. Best case, the other person agrees to do it the night we're doing it, maybe. Does that make sense?
Publish by.
Hmm?
What's your deadline for publication?
15 days beforehand.
Yeah, and we need obviously between 10 and 15 out, and then, so, I mean, we have enough time barely to get it in if we are gonna do this.
This wouldn't need to be republished.
The other one would
The
be.
new one would, but I'm asking because in theory, I don't know, Nancy, when you're gonna be away, but the week before that. Again, we're sort of taking from one and putting it in the other kind of thing, but
So on days I can do it before the week of the 19th is the 12th, which would not even be no one can do the 12th, so the 13th. Or then it's after the 15th, because the 15th is a Sunday. You're saying that's the last day.
And you're gone like 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like the 13th is the day.
You're away on March 3rd, Nancy.
Yep, I'm leaving on Saturday.
Okay.
So the 13th is really the only.
The
viable
13th
day.
is the only day. Is there any possibility that you could get an extension?
I'll absolutely.
I mean, they want to sell it. Give
Yeah.
you a few days, come on.
There's a very stiff hard money deadline in there, so
Oh, okay.
they lose
Well-
very substantial.
One of the sellers we expect would be very difficult. The
Yes.
person who's dealing with the town for other projects.
Okay.
I think one of the other owners would be very kind and
Okay.
flexible.
Yes, we'd certainly be willing to request it.
So I guess we could say we'd schedule it for the 13th
Yeah.
unless you can get an extension, which would then would be moved it back to
The
19th.
19th.
Yes, so we will give you a prompt response on that. So we'll chase that down right away.
And we're gonna try and get the other applicant for the 19th to go to the 13th
Right.
if they're willing to, and if they're
Right.
not, we'll do two.
If not, we'll have to do 2.
Is that's something we can ask Craig to do? Because we can't talk directly to the applicant.
Yeah, we will reach out tomorrow to the applicant and see what's going on. First, you have to set the public hearing. You haven't even done that yet. So let's get to the point of setting the public hearing.
And by the way, we should know by tomorrow if the primary seller would give us till the 19th or the 20th. So.
20th, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Right.
Yeah.
By midnight on the 19th.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I've already discussed with them the appeal period and so forth, so that, that's a risk that they would be willing to take. It's just, they need to get this decision first.
Yeah.
So if there is an approval that they're aware of the 15-day appeal period after it's published.
But again, I'm sort of on the same page as Michaela, like if anything you can do to like, get structure out of the setback and maybe put your gardens or your,
And me too, in that vein.
it's almost like flip it a little bit. You still get what you want, but I know it's not exactly what you want, but it's in a,
Yeah, just anything that can be reduced is
just to get it
always
out of,
appreciated.
you don't have to be completely out, but more if it's not possible. Right? All right.
Well, just know that over the last couple of weeks, one of the reasons why we were so last minute is because every foot meant that, okay, now can we fit the closet there with a hallway in the middle?
I see.
So, because there's only one bedroom, the primary bedroom that extends there and a closet bathroom. And we wanted to have that be thin,
Mhm.
right? So, just so it's seen less and sort of at the edge of the property. So
No.
we're trying to balance a lot of things and moving
Yeah.
it the extra 5 feet.
Seems to-
Squeeze the couple
Everything's
things out.
getting compressed.
Yeah.
Right, okay, well, anyway, thank you so much. I do appreciate your efforts, your explanations. Your landscaping was really amazing as well. And I feel that your conditions were helpful, in that you're getting rid of some of the fragmites of the property next door, which you would own if you did this. And that you would have some maintenance to make sure that it takes the buffer. But again, it's just anything to do to like, especially because there's a pool there in the setback, that's a little bit.
Just remember, a lot of these things, the buffer, the wetlands and the maintenance, that's all to have some structure and
Yeah.
it's a little bit of horse trading, so.
No, but I'm saying, again, it is horse trading, it's back, looking at the whole picture, but anything you do to improve it, it's just help.
Do we have to have a vote to extend?
Yeah, they have to fill out
We do that.
Who needs to make that?
Yeah, thank you.
How are we on the days right?
So the 35 days to here, so now you'd have to make an extension.
You need to
have
give us a
sign
written
a piece
consent.
of paper and that
extend.
you consent to a continuation.
Michael or Tracy do that. right?
Yeah, I have to get the piece of paper out of the box.
It's going beyond.
Yeah, I think out of,
Accidents.
But it was gonna be.
Tomorrow.
Okay, somebody needs to fill this out. This is a consent to continue the public hearing. To put the date. Oh, here you go.
May I borrow
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Thank you.
And
Today is the Gosh, I've lost track.
Today's the 19th. Okay, and it's case number 25-13C. So your name is here.
Yeah. That I got. It was this one here, continue to the ZBA meeting on, because we've got two possible dates.
I think-
Or how about or? Could it be, or what is?
What?
In the ruffling and the talking, I just want to make, you should give an extension to the furthest date out. If
Yep.
it's not used, it's not used.
Which was the March 19th.
Yeah.
give it to that's exactly what I was about to say. Give it to the
Thank
19th. If
It goes
it's done ahead of
earlier,
time,
then-
great.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't want to be in a situation where it runs out and we still haven't met.
Eric, just while we're on the record, one of the variables that they're considering is a fragmity removal on another lot. Is that what we're talking about? That would be owned by this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to expect that the fragmity removal would require. Can I just ask? folks
Hey, we're still in
so
the-
that we're not catching most
still
of
in
things
the
on the
hearing.
recording?
Yeah.
Would require
We're still in the
approvals,
hearing.
would it require approvals other than this board?
Yes, and
Which I want to be careful when we're talking about that. It's not that we can't do that, but I want to be careful that we have terminology that doesn't functionally, if there's some kind of obstacle down the road with
Right.
another commission,
Right.
their inability to meet that for whatever purpose it is would make this variance
Cancels
not
our variance.
applicable, or they would basically make them not be able to satisfy conditions.
Well, that's great.
So in theory, they
foresight.
could come back and modify, but then we're going back and forth. So I just wanted to, on the record, everybody's excited about that fragmity removal, and maybe this is not an issue, but we want to be careful about the terminology and how we state that, and issues sort of beyond me.
Yeah,
I just
so-
want to get Eric's input on.
Okay, Eric.
yeah, I mean, the challenge is that's going to be, unless I'm mistaken, below the coastal jurisdiction line in many cases. And that puts it sort of in a different class of approvals than what we're dealing with here. And traditionally, and again, Sylvia can correct me if I'm wrong, you're not allowed to sort of set your conditions on something that's totally beyond your purview, your control. So I think you can certainly say to the best extent possible, or something to that degree that you could, that there's an expectation that the phragmites will be removed. I'm not sure you can make it an absolute condition of approval because it is below the coastal jurisdiction line and on other property. So I would just be careful about hinging too much of this decision on things that are beyond the scope of the zoning regulations.
But it could be something like to the best effort. make
Intent.
Intent to go pursue the opportunity to.
Remove
Remove.
Or to obligate us to the extent it's legally permissible.
To obligate them to pursue it is one thing.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, as you're thinking about this until
Yeah.
next month, you're not hinging everything on an absolute fragmity removal. Because that gets a
Somebody
little
may say no.
complicated.
Yeah.
There's multiple variables of things that
Yeah.
can impact that.
That's
That
very
makes your
helpful.
decision more complicated than it
But
needs to be.
if the owner had a professional write a letter in proposing that and put that into the record And that letter says that, obtain proper permissions. And after proper permissions are obtained, then we will move the phragmites. I think that covers all the bases.
It does, except here's two things, Joe. One of which is if they don't get proper permissions, I don't want the variance to then disappear, right? Because again, there's no guarantee that they will get these permissions. And two, to a point that was raised earlier by the chair, if you remove the phragmites in year one and in year two they come back, I don't want the variance to suddenly be in violation because the phragmites came back. They're very persistent, as you all know. So I don't want this variance to be tied to something that is very hard to achieve, which is phragmite eradication. So again, to the extent that you can say that that's something you have a strong intent to do to the greatest extent practicable, all of those sorts of things are great. But again, I am reluctant to make this variance tied to something as challenging as getting permission to permanently eradicate phragmites.
Stick to the buffer and the maintenance buffer for now, with the intent of doing the phragmites and keeping it down.
By the way, even if we would own that land, it's still subject to.
Well, remember, it's the coastal jurisdiction line changes who gets to regulate things. Below coastal jurisdiction line, you may need to go and get deep approval to go in there and do certain things. So my commission, my zoning commission, the ZBA, doesn't regulate that below the coastal jurisdiction line. And therefore, you can't get a variance of things that are outside of our jurisdiction. And I don't want a condition of approval to be something that is totally outside my zoning books parameters. Okay?
Anyway, we're fine obligating ourselves to it.
Pursuing it.
If they let you.
First, they're
I mean, it's obligating ourselves to
in
invest.
pursuit of it.
Pursue, yeah, no, I think there's got to be a reasonable way to word that.
Pursued that. We have Sylvia and Eric to help us to make sure that we do it right. All right, so what I am hearing now, so we would make a motion to continue, but we would make a motion to continue to the March 19th if that works, or to March 13th if you can't get an extension on your contract. That's basically what we're saying. So we're gonna write that down.
So my preference would be that you continue to the 13th if necessary, with the anticipation that if it's not necessary, it will be on the 19th.
Okay.
I'll give you my reasons for that if you want me to, but that's my preference.
I would.
So let's get, Stephanie's gonna write this down because my handwriting is horrible. Okay, did you get that?
So
References.
that we would continue to March 13th regular meeting or
No.
special
Yeah.
meeting, yeah.
Because that way, if it doesn't happen at the special meeting, it will automatically roll over to your next regular meeting.
Yes, so not an or.
Or
but
March
it'll be scheduled to the
19th.
No,
13th.
just,
Wait, here's what I have. We will continue to March 13th. March 13th, 2026
Jesus, yeah.
special meeting
there we go.
or
No, I would just leave
there's
it.
no or March
No,
19th.
No, because if you don't have that special meeting, it'll automatically get moved to the next meeting, right?
Yeah.
Cross it off. Okay.
The
We're in
point
the
of
weeds
saying
now.
it out loud is so that if there's a member of the public, they know exactly when they need to show up. So if you make, otherwise, if there's any lack of clarity in that, then we need to publish. So in theory, we don't need to make a decision today, but then Eric's republishing and then we have a timeline associated with that. So the better thing to do is just schedule it for the 13th officially. And then that can be either continued or canceled and scheduled for the 19th. It rolls over by itself.
All right, and since you've continued it to the 19th, we don't need to get your permission again. It's
Right.
just a question of us.
We're gonna word it for
Logistically.
the 13th, but we've got permission from you to roll it all the way to the 19th if necessary.
Steve, there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo. We have to do it.
Could we get out of your hair so you can finish any other?
Do we need to close the hearing?
Yeah, well,
No, no, no,
well,
you're
we have
not
to make a motion.
closing it. Your motion to continuing it, and
Yeah, we have to make that motion.
yeah, but we're writing down.
that's, we're making sure we have the right motion.
Would anybody to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Steph,
Let's
Second.
get it going.
Yeah.
Is that Kip?
yeah,
Okay,
and you
Okay.
have, so you read the whole thing out loud. It's in the record. Yeah, just read it one more
A
time.
motion was made by Stephanie, seconded by Kip to continue the public hearing for case 25-13C 125 Shore Road to the March 13th, 2026 special meeting.
And then say where it is.
Meeting Hall Memorial Town Hall 52.
Oh, at
Lime
6:30.
Or is it six?
We
We
never
don't-
have
we
the
never
time on
say the
here,
time.
but,
Oh, because a
Special
special meeting. At
but it will be.
At 6:30, right? 6:30 is okay with everybody?
Yeah.
I would expect we will have our choice of rooms because
Yeah. Okay.
Six,
This is Friday.
6:30.
Friday the 13th.
No meetings on
Okay,
Friday.
wait, let's,
Could be a lucky day.
Is-
let's not
I mean,
talk
it's
in the
been a
middle of,
Friday, 13th.
let's not
Let's-
talk in the middle of making a motion, please.
All right, should I
Okay,
read it again?
so,
I'll just stay to the March 13th special meeting at 6:30 in the Meeting Hall Memorial Town Hall, 52 Lime Street, Old Lyme, Connecticut.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None. All those abstaining? None. The motion passed unanimously 5-0. Thank you. We really appreciate what you're trying to do, and I hope you appreciate what we're trying to do.
Yes,
We
we
got
do.
you.
We do. We do. It's
Okay.
complicated.
respect.
Okay,
Yeah, it's complicated.
Thank you.
But it's
all right, thank you very much. So the rest of this, we zoom to the regular meeting now.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Yeah, we have more.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
so the new business
Here we
is,
go.
well, while we have you here, oh, no, we'll just get through this real quickly. Okay. The new business is receipt and setting a public hearing of new applications. There's 2 new applications that have been submitted prior to today. The one submitted today, we don't receive it. Was 302 Ferry Road, request variance to construct a dormer on a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming RU 40 lot located in the A11 flood zone. I think it's in the Connecticut River Gateway, so conservation zone in the Connecticut boundary, but that needs to be confirmed. And based on staff review of the submission, the recommendation is to go ahead and receive this today because we need to receive it. But to schedule the public hearing for April 16th because there seems to be some key information that is missing.
The 16th?
April
April.
16th.
Oh, April.
Okay, the next one is 21 Brookside, request amendment to a scope of construction for a variance granted on 2/21/24 due to more extensive building code violations discovered during construction. Receive and schedule the public hearing for March 19th. So again, that's the one I talked about. It's probably pretty straightforward. An amendment to an application.
well, I mean, just to be clear, they claimed that they were going to renovate the existing house. That was the proposal. They have demolished the existing house and are rebuilding it from scratch. So that's not what you approved, and that's why they're coming back. So, how you choose to treat that,
I see, because it's not.
What are the
in
options?
the same house, they can make some additional changes to the variances, I see. Okay, now I understand. Okay,
okay?
so that's the other case that's scheduled for March 19th.
But what are the other options when somebody does that and they tear it down when they weren't supposed to, they didn't have a clearance to do that? We make them build them back up. What are the options?
Build it to the variance they got.
Well, except they took down the original house where yeah, so I mean, ultimately, your question is, are they able to put back exactly what they had there before? And if they're putting back,
Reduce non-conformities further. 'Cause
well,
that-
I mean, that's why they have to come back. I mean, ultimately, they told you one thing, they're doing something slightly different. So now, so you need to judge what they're showing you versus what you originally said they could do and come to your conclusion about what ultimately will get built there. Okay.
All
Let them
right,
have an outhouse.
All right, so then, the other thing we were going to do today, and I wanted Sylvia to hear for this, is that discuss potential ZBA recommendations to the zoning commission for updating the Old Lyme zoning regulations. That's phase 1 and phase 2, and Eric has described this to us before. So I thought I had some maybe suggestions about phase 1, but he'll comment on that. But even for phase 2, I wanted Sylvia to say, give us some guidance on what is really a good idea or not good idea for us to recommend as a board versus as individuals.
So you individually have voices. You're not bound because you don't have your, it's not like you lose your rights because being on the board, but you should be doing that independently. So if the board on board letterhead is gonna make a recommendation, it should be something that directly impacts either board process, or for example, there's a type of application that you routinely see and you're routinely granting it, and it's just a lot of work for nothing because it's routinely getting granted. You can make a recommendation for the commission to consider how to deal with that. Because it's routinely granted.
I think the thing is, one of those things we've talked about, so I had some thoughts related to process for the chapter on the regulations related to ZBA. We could talk about that tonight. But also we talked before about, and Eric has mentioned this before, is about potentially making some recommendations related to like sort of FEMA compliance requirements. And there's going to be a whole workshop on flood zone regulation updates. So we have time to put that together, but I did put some thoughts together. I don't know if you wanted to walk through them tonight.
Well, you would, I mean, the individual letter you gave is going to sort of go in and under your own
Yeah,
name.
that was just for me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And then you had a sort of a separate category there regarding the flood zone issues.
Yes.
I recall.
Yes.
And again, the theory being is that right now, if people are going directly higher in the flood zone, that they still require a variance for doing so. And again, because the R10 zone has a maximum height of 24 feet, and because most of these houses are already in the setbacks, you're granting, because we're able to do the grant, these variances, when the only thing that is happening is essentially the direct elevation within the existing footprint. The thought would be that should not require a variance. All you're doing is essentially lifting within the existing footprint.
If it's only for the height variance.
If it's only, well, it's for the height and the bulk in the setback.
Right, yes.
Because a lot of these are in a side yard or a rear yard setback, but they're going up. So to the extent that you're elevating essentially the same house just upward, that shouldn't need a variance to do, because you're trying to achieve FEMA compliance, and ultimately that's considered a benefit to the town, right? So.
And also we have guidance from our ZBA attorney that there's no case law that independent of unusual hardship, the ability to, the minimum required to become FEMA compliant is an alternative legal hardship in and of itself. I don't know if the zoning commission's discussed that, but I think that we could bring that up.
You certainly can bring it up, but again, I mean, I think part of what I am trying to drive home to the zoning commission is, if every property in an area has to get the same kind of variance, then it's no longer a unique circumstance, right? I mean, at that point in time, that points to a flaw in the regulations themselves that you should be able to address by amending the regs to account for that. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I will be raising with them, that, if everybody in the FEMA zone needs a variance, then there's something just wrong with how we're doing things.
It's not an unusual hardship.
It's not an unusual hardship, but also your regs should be sort of, understanding of the circumstances that your town lives in. It's very nice to have idealistic, wonderful regs that work in the abstract, but if in Old Lyme, hundreds of properties are going to need to elevate and hundreds of properties are going to need to go to the ZBA, well, first of all, obviously it's a burden for you folks, but second of all, the expense of having everybody here to do that is thousands and thousands of dollars. I was calculating this in Westbrook when I was in Westbrook, and because of the sorts of things that were required in Westbrook, I calculated about $10,000 to file a variance application, which is just an enormous amount of money for most people.
Yeah.
So if we can do this in a way,
In addition to the cost of.
in addition, so to the extent that we can create a process that does not require tens of thousands of dollars to achieve, that is a worthwhile goal. And particularly since we're now putting sewers in for much of the shore, there.
Yeah.
Well, no, for three. No, I mean, they were out there digging yesterday.
Yeah.
those sewers are going in and they're going in this year, okay? Okay. For the private beaches, they're going to happen and they're going to happen fast. Whatever the cost is, they're going to happen. All of like with Point of Woods, once the sewers go in and we no longer have septics to worry about, people are going to come to you with new houses. They just will. So you have to be ready for that, or we need to adjust the regulations so that you don't face lots and lots of new applications of that sort. So again, that's part of what you need to look at is, are there other things in your regs that you're seeing month after month after month that you think should be handled in some other way besides a variance application? Again, one of the things that I have mentioned in Clinton and Westbrook and now here, since I've been here, your smallest lot size is 10,000 square feet. Well, in the shoreline area, none of those lots are 10,000 square feet, or very few. So if you have a zone where every single lot does not comply with the minimum size, maybe there's something wrong with the zone. Again, just things to consider about if we're looking at redrafting the regs, are we going to consider, again, making the regs realistic to what is actually on the ground? And I understand, Westbrook, Clinton, Old Sabre, the minimum lot size everywhere is R10. That's what everybody has. But in these cases where we just don't have actual 10,000 square foot lots, is that a realistic thing to be asking for? So
that was one of the questions I had in the regulations, even the updated version. So when they talk about expansion of existing structure on a non-conforming lot, those regulations are written so complicated, so burdensome, and we've had multiple different zoning enforcement, or they all read it a different way, and it's like it needs clarifying or just simplifying or just
it was written by a lawyer with it was written by Mark Brantz. It was written okay, and it was written in haggling with this zoning commission however many years ago. And it took months and months and months of drafting, and the result was it became more and more and more cumbersome and clunky to try and address every concern that people had. And as a result, your regs are not very usable or user-friendly, I guess. So part of what this reorg has done in the phase one, at least, is try and make them look more user-friendly in many ways. And then in phase two, we're going to try and go through, and to the extent things are just unusable or not a challenge to use, revise the regs so that they're just easier for people to work with. Because I'm the one who has to be interpreting all of this, and I'm the one that has to explain it to people. Because everybody who comes in, they don't do this for a living. So I spend a lot of time sort of explaining what the regs just say to people.
It's not fun for them. It's not fun for
what I
you.
wanted to know is so we were going to talk about today. So I actually spent a lot of time going through the regulations, the newest version of it, and sort of making comments on it. But I thought some of them might just be my personal comments. Some of them might be things that are relevant that we could discuss as a ZBA. But I thought, Sylvia, I wanted to ask you, would it be helpful if I sent them to you first and say, is this appropriate to discuss at the board, and then share it with the board, or share it with the board and then discuss it and then see if it's the right thing to talk about?
Well, I mean, I think you could talk about anything.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's off the table to talk about. So whether or not it ends up in a correspondence that's labeled ZBA is a different question. So I think you can bring up anything. Not to say that I'm not happy to look at them if you want me to, but I don't know that you legally have to review them with me first.
No, I wasn't thinking that. I just think I didn't think that we wanted to go through it and send it out to everybody just on the board and say, here's some of the thoughts related to non-conforming lots, some definitions,
Right.
the regulations related to the ZBA, some differences that I saw between the old regulations and the new regulations, and some suggestions related to flood zone requirements, and some thoughts about maybe there's some place we want to revise and modify the regulations to address some of the case law that you've talked to us about. Like, for example, in there, it says, the criteria that we must consider for making a variance, but now we've gotten more guidance that two alternatives, legal alternatives to unusual hardship was the net reduction in nonconformity. So if you give back and you're
Horse trading. Yeah.
horse trading, and then the FEMA compliance, the minimum required to become FEMA compliant. So I think, is that something we would want to incorporate some way into like the regulations themselves? Because especially the part on ZBA, it said these are the criteria that you should be using. But now that was written in 2008 before a lot of these cases were there. And also even related to the Affordable Care Act, not Affordable Care, the ADA. We now have a case that says that it needs the disabled person needs to be either a resident or an owner. That's probably a little too detailed to put in the regulations, but I
Well,
wanted
the ADA section should be written to make sense how it reads, because it doesn't make sense. The language doesn't make sense.
yeah, a lot of it
Yeah.
isn't easy to read, but so anyway, so those are some of the thoughts I was thinking about.
Oh, Nancy, can I ask, you went through that and you spent a lot of time doing that. So when you send it to us, are you going to send it to us with your notes?
So what I thought I would do, because it's such a big thing, I can't barely. What I did was I went through it, and the sections that were most important, I then printed it out with
your
sections
notes.
highlighted and the comments.
Great.
And I just printed out those pages because otherwise it's 200 and something.
No, yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, and I wasn't gonna print out 200 and something pages.
Well, it's electronic. Could you just send it to us electronically?
The electronic version, the whole thing, yeah.
No, your section.
Oh,
what you printed out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We can just scan those pages in and send it out in
That's what I
PDF.
thought. I'll just scan these
Yeah.
pages and send it to people. People can think about it. And I didn't do every page because I found some typos and things. But that way I would just give to Eric. But
Yeah, right.
anything I thought was some meaningful,
Right.
and I would include you on it in case you wanted to have any comment.
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be great.
All
Thank you
right,
for doing
I'll
that.
do that. All right, so that was the other agenda topic. Okay, anything else you want to talk about regulations? Unless you don't, I think it's too late. I thought it'd be a short meeting.
I did too.
Yeah. Today,
Yeah.
but
I know.
since it's not a short meeting, it's very late. I don't think we want to go through this today, but maybe at some future meeting.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah. No. Okay, not a special
Hopefully
meeting.
that will be a short meeting.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So then the next information items, correspondence announcement, chair update. Just remind everybody, there's a February 25th Freedom of Information Training Workshop for all board members and commissioners. And I just recently got an email that says that I need to tell them who's going to go from the ZBA. So who's going to go from the ZBA on the Freedom of Information Training Workshop on six?
It's 6:30 here, right? 6:30 here.
Yeah, 6:30 here. So that was Richard.
What day?
I have done it before, but you're saying we should do it every year? Is that it?
No, she changed her mind.
It's good
Before
to
she
have
said
refresher, but-
before she said she wanted everybody to go. Now she said you can go if you want, or if you're a new person. So Richard, Nick,
It's the 25th, correct? I put it in my calendar.
September 25th
I
at
did it last
6.
year. So I'm gonna
If
go
there's
to
a get together at 6:30, but it starts at 7.
September?
February.
February. Did I say September? Oh my God, I'm hungry. When I get hungry, my brain goes like
Yeah.
this.
So
If you're not going,
I don't think I will be. No.
I won't be here.
I'm gonna go.
Okay, Michaela.
I have it on my calendar, but I did go last year and I do have a conflicting meeting, so I don't know. If I show up, I do. If I don't, I don't. Don't put my name down.
Michaela, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Richard, Nick, Michaela, and Stephanie. Russ Bob's not here, so we're not gonna worry about it. So I'll let them know that you're coming. Okay. And then there's a spring into action event that Martha started having. This will be the third one. I went to the first one. I was away for the second one. I'm gonna be away for the third one too. It's Saturday, March 21st, and it's normally just for the chairs or a designee. Would anybody like to be a designee? It's a Saturday.
They serve lunch. I have to go anyway. so
Okay,
I'll
well
do
then
it.
you can be our designee.
Great. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Michaela.
And I'm
All right.
not a morning person, so I'm not happy.
What time is it?
9 in the morning.
9 in the morning.
No, I can-
On a Saturday. Really?
I got a 10 o'clock already.
And the thing is, I went before And a lot of the stuff they talk about is not really relevant to ZBA because
Right.
we're not a town committee.
Mm.
We're authorized by state statute, we have our own state requirements. So
Yeah.
it wasn't particularly helpful, but they want to have somebody show up. So if
Yeah.
you're gonna be there,
I
you
have to go
two birds
anyway.
with one
Yeah.
stone. Okay, good.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
And then the correspondence, just so people know this proposed text amendment for the zoning commission proposed amendment on zoning regulations to add uses under uses permitted by the special permit on the C30 and C30S zone. That's just information only. We don't.
What-
Okay,
I didn't understand that.
It's on the,
Okay.
yeah.
okay, let me jump in here. We have a woman who wants to open a school for children with autism. Our regulations presently say that we do not allow for-profit schools anywhere in town. Her school, because of the way it's set up, is theoretically, or not theoretically, is for-profit. It's not 501c3. It is a for-profit school. Therefore, she is not permitted under our current regulations. She is trying to carve out with just very specific definitions for the kind of work that she does, the possibility of her school being permitted in town. And the background on this is about 20 years or so, there was this whole issue with schools like ITT and others that were selling these degrees or whatever that were totally worthless and getting money to do that. So at that point in time, the zoning regulations were changed to say no for-profit schools. So again, we're not permitting them now wholesale. We're just allowing this kind of school for special education for elementary purposes and associated, services that go with it, in these zones so that she would be able to do this. She's looking at doing it at 230 Shore Road. So you don't have a role necessarily in saying you think it's a good idea, it's a bad idea, but it is an informational thing here, just letting you know we'll be in front of the zoning commission if this is something you're interested in.
Okay.
Okay?
So anyway, with that, the last thing is, you can probably just take off it now, it's so late. Is anyone want to make any amendments to the minutes for the January 15th, 2026 ZBA meeting?
All good.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Kip? And anyone like to second that? I'll second it, I guess.
Somebody has to.
Somebody has.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Abstaining? None. The motion passed unanimously 5-0. Okay, would anybody, if there's nothing else, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay. Oh, you're
Sorry,
quiet.
I was looking at 230 Shore Road.
Michaela,
Sorry.
Second.
Kip, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstaining? None. Motion passed unanimously. And the meeting is finished at 9:22. Wow.